Chapter 726. The Tsar District. A group of 6 people was carefully hiding in the wilderness where dire beasts were rampaging. Suddenly, a great lord-ranked ferocious beast appeared in the 6-man party's trap. Taking advantage of the moment the great lord-ranked ferocious beast was trapped, the 6 players swarmed the great lord-ranked ferocious beast, executing a variety of techniques. It did not take long for them to slay the great lord-ranked ferocious beast. After killing the great lord-class dire beast, the group of 6 stepped forward and dissected the great lord-class dire beast. They stripped the best parts of its flesh and stored them in containers on their bodies. After that, they quickly retreated to the defensive line of the stronghold, which was more than 100 kilometers away. When the group safely retreated to the defensive line of the stronghold, the group couldn't help but cheer. It went very smoothly this time. We killed a total of 4 Great Lord-class dire beasts and 10 Hydra Lord-class dire beasts. The flesh and blood essence of these dire beasts should be able to be sold for 10 million. The 6 of us can each get more than 1 million. With this money, we can relax for the rest of the journey. Among the 6, a tall man with Eastern European blood said with a smile. Judging from the blood essence radiating from his body, his cultivation was close to the peak of a lord-class dire beast. He was clearly the leader of this group of 6. Yeah, Leader Makarov, you're the best. With more than 1 million in our hands, our 3 days of dangerous adventures in the wilderness were not in vain. TSK, those rich people really know how to live. Using flesh and blood essence to cultivate. No wonder they're all improving so quickly. What's the use of having a strong physique? Without experiencing blood and fire, there's still a bunch of weaklings. I can take on 3 of them without panting. Several people in the group said casually. Leader Makarov's gaze fell on his second-in-command, a woman who looked to be in her 40s. Blood son, do you still want to keep the flesh and blood essence for your own use? The woman called Blood Son nodded silently and didn't say a word. However, Makarov and the rest of the party were already used to her personality and laughed. You're really working hard for your cultivation. Look at you, you can already solo a peak lord tier dire beast, right? If it weren't for the fact that you're a woman and your physique isn't as good as a man's, I'm afraid that even I, the team leader, would be defeated by you. Speaking of which, why are you cultivating so hard? The woman remained silent and did not answer. This woman seemed to be in her 30s. She had a delicate figure and was filled with a sense of flexibility and slenderness. However, it seemed that because she had been walking in the wilderness all year round, the wind and sun had caused her skin to be a little tanned, making her look much older than her actual age. What was particularly frightening was that on her face, which was mostly covered by her long hair, there were 3 extremely deep claw marks left behind by a powerful vicious beast. This powerful vicious beast had almost torn her entire face apart. Even now that it had been healed, it was still ferocious. In fact, it wasn't just her face that was scarred. Makarov and everyone in the party knew that Blood Son's body was probably covered with such scars as well. In order to obtain more flesh and blood essence, in order to cultivate faster to a higher realm, she was really working too hard. Clearly, she had to pay a price for risking her life against a vicious beast. When are we setting off again? We just came back from the wilderness and need to rest for a while. Do you want to rest as well? I'm also working with the dire wolves. They'll enter the wilderness tomorrow and I'll go with them. This time, they plan to take 4 days. 4 days, huh? Don't worry, we won't enter the wilderness during this time. Makarov said. The woman nodded and walked towards the temporary lodging she had set up in the fortress city not far away. Sister Blood Son hasn't rested in the past 3 months, has she? Looks like she's going to enter the wilderness again. A man in the party who looked to be in his 30s said. The last time she rested was indeed 3 months ago. Because she was hit by a disaster-level dire beast, she broke 17 bones all over her body and almost died there. Because her injuries were too serious and she couldn't move, she had no choice but to lie in the hospital. In the party, another woman who was younger than Blood Son, Diana, said in a deep voice. Alright, Blood Sun seems to have a lot of hatred on her. This hatred is the motivation to push her forward. However, it's not our place to interfere in this matter, Makarov said. The others nodded inwardly. Although they could be called a party and could be said to have gone through life and death together most of the time, this didn't mean that their friendship had reached the point where they were willing to throw their lives away for Blood Sun's personal grudge. At this time, a member of the party looked at the video playing on the big screen in front of them and clicked his tongue in wonder. This commercial is still playing. I remember that it was playing the last time I came back. Jiang Ningji. Find her and you'll be able to obtain a treasure that can extend your life by 100 years. You'll also be able to enjoy endless glory and wealth. If only I could know where this woman is. As long as I get a reward from that big shot, I won't have to go to the wilderness and risk my life from now on. You don't have to think too much about it. Currently, all the forces in the entire Federation are trying to find this person. However, almost a week has passed, and there's not even a shadow of that woman. According to my guess, this woman named Jiang Ningji most likely died in the turmoil at the beginning of the vicious beast calamity. Otherwise, even if she's hiding at the ends of the earth, she should have seen these videos and taken the initiative to show herself. After all, the person looking for her is a man known as the Ultimate King. Another person in the party looked at the video playing in front of them, his eyes filled with envy. Ultimate King. Diana muttered. After a while, she said, "Do you guys think there's really such a powerful person in this world? Can we martial artists really cultivate to such a level in the end? Can we treat apocalyptic level vicious beasts like they're nothing? Fly physically, and fly at Mach 5? It should be true." My friend has studied this video that has been playing these days. There's no trace of editing or editing. That man named Tsing Hui might really have this ability, Makarov said. Just as Makarov spoke, the image on the big screen changed. It was no longer the scene of the strongest person in the Tsar district slaying the disaster-level dire beasts, but the scene of Tsing Hui wantonly slaughtering the dire beasts in the spatial passage on the southern shore of the Mediterranean Sea. Looking at the inhumanly powerful figure on the screen, even Makarov, an expert who could kill Lord-tier pinnacle dire beasts, could not help but exclaim from the bottom of his heart, the title of the strongest man on earth is none other than him. This is an invincible existence that has already surpassed the limits of what the entire earth can resist. If I had his ability, money, power, beauties. What can't I get? I wouldn't have to spend so much effort to find that average-looking woman named Jiang Ningji. That Jiang Ningji is average-looking in our eyes, but in the Huaxia district, she can be considered a beauty. However, compared to Tsing Hui, who is the strongest man, she's not even a little bit better. She's not worthy of a powerful man like King Tsing Hui at all. Diana curled her lips and said, "Love, this is the power of love, understand?" The younger man in the team corrected her. Diana shrugged. "Anyway, I can't understand the thoughts of those people in the Huaxia district." While the few people in the team were watching the video on the screen and chatting, the woman named Blood Sun had returned to her temporary residence. As soon as she arrived at her temporary residence, an old man and an old woman quickly walked out. "Miss," looking at the woman who was obviously stained with blood, the old man with the old face showed a trace of grief. He immediately said to the old woman, "Damara, quickly, treat the miss." "Kubo, don't worry, it's not too serious this time." Blood Sun said calmly, looking no different from a normal person. However, when the old woman went forward and lifted her sleeve, the first thing she saw was a bloody wound. For a moment, the sentimental old woman Damara looked as if she was about to cry. "Auntie, don't be sad. It's just a small wound. With a little treatment, she'll recover soon." "I'll go prepare the medical supplies," Damara said, quickly turning to the interior of the house. "Miss," the old man looked at Blood Sun, his eyes filled with pain. After a while, he said hesitantly, "Miss, you should have seen the news over there. Let's go back. Young Master Tsing Hui has returned, and in his strongest state. The Yi family, Huang family, and Qi family have all received their retribution at young Master Tsing Hui's hands. Now, we can go back to the Huaxia district. You don't have to enter the most dangerous battlefield and fight with ferocious beasts in order to obtain power to protect the Eastern Sun Sword sect for revenge. Let's go home and meet young Master Tsing Hui again. Go back. Tsing Hui, Shui Yang muttered these two words. Then, she seemed to unconsciously caress her own body. She touched the crisscrossing wounds on her body, as well as the 3 claw marks on her face that had completely destroyed her beautiful face. The moment her rough fingertips touched the wounds on her face, her entire body trembled violently. An uncontrollable fear and trepidation seemed to surge in her heart. No. I won't go back. I can't go back. I can't let him see me like this. Blood Sun's entire body trembled non-stop. She hurriedly let her pitch-black hair down, as if she wanted to completely cover her sinister and terrifying face. Young sect master. Old Guku looked at her appearance and cried out in pain. For revenge, to protect herself, and to destroy the Eastern Sun Sword sect, the tragedy of leaving behind Tsing Hui to cover the retreat alone would not repeat itself. The young sect master had been madly fighting with ferocious beasts all these years, using the flesh and blood essence of the ferocious beasts to obtain great power and continuously improve herself. After more than 10 years, her strength was already strong enough to fight head-on with a lord-level ferocious beast, but the price she had to pay, after a while, Blood Sun seemed to have slightly controlled her faintly crumbling emotions and gradually calmed down. She raised her head slightly, and her starry eyes looked through the gaps in her hair at the high-spirited figure on the distant street screen. Right now, he is the greatest king returning in glory, the peerless martial saint who is the focus of attention, the savior of Earth's civilization, and I, young sect master, I believe that young Master Tsing Hui is definitely not such a person. He definitely won't go back on the promise he made back then. Guku's face was filled with heartache as he tried to persuade her. It's useless. The promise of 10 years, is already in the past. The woman, Shui Yang, lowered her head, allowing her hair to fall and cover her entire face, as if she could hide in the darkness again by doing so. Actually, Qing Su, he's destined to never become someone like us. 13 years ago, he was the star of the political world, the son of the mayor of a city. His future was limitless, while I'm just a nobody. I'm the daughter of the master of a tiny Dongyang sword sect. I can't even compare to the daughters of those listed companies. Just what part of me is worthy of him? Just what part of me can compare to his family, young sect master? Guku opened his mouth, but for a moment, he was speechless. Let him forget me. Let's just pretend that Jiang Ningji never appeared in his life. Chapter 727. 1 Aura Sword Art, 4 Elemental Sword Art, Cosmic Sword Aura, Demon Refinement Sword Aura, God Slaying Sword, 49 Dian Sword Aura. Qing Su spent 3 days to go through all 6 scrolls of the sword technique he had obtained. Among these sword techniques, the 1 Aura Sword Art was the purest. It cultivated a single sword aura, which was in line with the ancient legends of sword immortals. As for the 4 elemental sword aura and cosmic sword aura, they required the gathering of earth, water, fire, wind, yin, and yang to enhance the might of the sword technique. The remaining demon refinement sword aura and god-slaying sword aura lean towards mental mystic techniques. Among them, the demon refinement sword aura needed to feed one's mental demons, using them to refine the sword into sword aura. By killing the target, one could destroy the target's physical form, and also use the sword aura to trigger the enemy's mental demons. The god-slaying sword cultivated a mental sword. It needed to be nurtured with one's mind. The longer the sword was nurtured, the greater the power it could unleash. It could be said to be a sword that took 10 years to sharpen. As for the remaining 49 Dian sword aura, it was more like a sword array than a sword aura. It required the essence, qi, and spirit to nurture 49 sword auras and sword spirits in the 48 meridians of the human body. Then, the 49 sword auras would be released together to form a sword array to kill the target. Tsing Hui sensed the scarlet abyss sword in his hand. There were two powers in the Scarlet Abyss sword. One was the power of the Golden Crow, and the other was the power of the Torch Dragon. The power of the Golden Crow leaned towards the extreme yang. As for the Torch Dragon, it was said to be the great sun true god in the divine wilderness, but in Sing Hui's hands, it leaned towards the mysterious and strange side. It could be categorized as yin. With such a foundation, it was clearly the best choice for him to cultivate the cosmic sword aura. However, Sing Hui felt the empty quintessential qi in his body. If he were to really cultivate the cosmic sword aura, it would immediately revert to its original form once he entered a special anti-magic environment like Earth. On the other hand, the 49 Dian sword aura's power came from one's essence, qi, and spirit. Even in a special anti-magic environment like Earth, he could still cultivate the 49 Dian sword aura with his astounding physique, qi, and spirit. However, the aura was the sword aura was the sword aura was the aura was sword aura was the sword aura was at its peak. In addition, he could also try to cultivate the demon refining sword qi. Cultivating the 6 desires soul refinement technique would allow one's soul to improve significantly. However, because one had experienced too much, it was easy for one's mind to split, forming an existence similar to an inner demon. If he could use the demon refining sword qi to make up for the drawbacks of the 6 desires soul refinement technique, the combination of the two would allow him to quickly accumulate his spiritual power, and he would also be able to cultivate the demon refining sword aura to great success in a short period of time. Qi, Sing Hui carefully weighed the pros and cons of these sword skills. In the end, after eliminating the demon refining sword qi, the god-slaying sword, and the 4 elemental sword technique, he was left with the 1 qi sword technique, the Qiankuan sword qi, and the 49 Dayuan sword qis. Isn't it a little too forceful for the Golden Crow and Torch Dragon to replace the yin and yang qis of the universe? Sing Hui removed the Qiankuan sword qi again, leaving only the 1 qi sword technique and the 49 Dian sword qi. Then, only the 1 qi sword technique and the 36 Tiangang sword qis are left. Currently, I can't cultivate the 1 qi sword technique in this forbidden environment on Earth. Then, I'll try to cultivate the 36 Tiangang sword qis. Sing Hui made a decision and immediately put his thoughts into action. In his mind, the method to condense and nurture the 49 great derivation sword qis circulated one by one. Very soon, the extremely dense aura in his body was guided by his mind and condensed towards one of the apertures on his body. Not long after, a vital energy sword condensed from extremely pure vital energy had already left the aperture under the guidance of his spiritual energy and appeared before him. This is the sword qi formed by the combination of spirit and soul. Sing Hui looked at the blood-red sword qi floating in front of him. After sensing it for a while, he immediately understood the mystery of this sword qi. In fact, there was nothing mysterious about it at all. In terms of power, this sword qi was not even as powerful as his punch. Other than being able to shoot the target out of the body, he could not feel that this sword qi had any advantage over his punch. It's because it's lacking qi, and it hasn't been properly nourished. The intent of the 49 Dian sword qi is extremely impressive. There are 50 great Daos, and 49 of them have escaped. This 49 Dian sword qi actually wants to cultivate the 49 great Daos into the sword qi and evolve all things into the universe to transform into the real Dian sword qi. Unfortunately, this is only an intent. This sword qi does not describe how to cultivate the 49 great Daos into the sword qi. Not to mention the method, it doesn't even have the method to comprehend the great Daos. Sing Hui's mind guided the sword qi directly into his body, dispersing in his aperture and returning to his body. I can give it a try when I'm on Earth, but it's been 7 or 8 days. I wonder if the Earth Federation has found Senior Sister Jiang. Sing Hui muttered to himself. Then he raised his head and glanced at the towering divine tree. Although only 4 days had passed, the essence of the towering divine tree was clearly a little lower than 4 days ago. But Sing Hui did not pay attention to it, and instead came to the connection point between the Shushan mountain cave and the outside world. Step by step, he appeared outside the Shushan mountain cave. Out of the Shushan mountain cave, Xing Hui was too lazy to reunite with the Greater One's spiritual master and the others. After identifying the direction, he was about to fly toward the ancient Jade City. But after a moment, he seemed to have sensed something, frowning as he looked in the direction of the Jade Sea province. Because the third piece of Fortune Jade had been fused into the Fortune Jade, there was a slight change in his spiritual world. Although these changes did not seem to have much effect, it made Xing Hui very sensitive to some special energy fluctuations, just like now. Originally he could not sense the fluctuations in space, but now he could vaguely feel a circle of space fluctuations spreading from the direction of the Jade Sea province. Even the Shushan region he was in was slightly affected. The Shushan region is more than 1,600 kilometers away from the Jade Sea space channel. Xing Hui muttered to himself for a moment, then slightly changed his direction, and quickly flew in the direction of the Jade Sea space channel. 1,600 kilometers was naturally a long distance for ordinary people. Even if they were to run on the highway, it would take at least a day and night. But for Xing Hui, whose fastest speed was Mach 6, it was nothing. Not long after, Xing Hui had crossed over 1,000 kilometers. And after crossing this distance, he could clearly see a series of battles that had erupted in this place. From time to time, he could see powerful beasts wreaking havoc, chasing and killing the humans living in this area. What's going on? The beasts actually crossed the Jade Sea fortress and rushed into the interior of the continent. Moreover, the spatial interference of the Jade Sea space channel seems to have expanded by a few hundred kilometers. The current radius of the channel is most likely 1,300 kilometers. Xing Hui carefully sensed for a moment, then his expression turned solemn as he quickly flew towards the interior. 1,300 kilometers was equivalent to having expanded by 2 times, and the radius had reached 650 kilometers. The Jade Sea space channel was originally in the Lake Tai region. Although it originally occupied a large area, because it was close to the sea, it could only interfere with a province. But now, the spatial interference had doubled, reaching a diameter of 1,300 kilometers. In other words, an area of 1,300,000 square kilometers had been destroyed, which was more than 1/8 of the entire Huaxia region. Why did such a sudden change happen? Breaking through the air at full speed, the closer he got to the Jade Sea fortress, the more intense the battle became. This was especially true in the air. Due to the spatial interference, fighter jets could not take off, and the entire area had become the territory of the beasts. But judging from the beasts that were chasing after him, the Jade Sea fortress should not have been completely destroyed. Rumble. With a deafening rumble, Xing Hui finally appeared outside the perimeter of the Jade Sea fortress. At this moment, the Jade Sea fort was like a lone boat in the middle of a tsunami, surrounded by countless vicious beasts. Due to spatial interference, most of the equipment that could be used had malfunctioned, and the Jade Sea fort's resistance had been greatly reduced. Many times, they could only watch helplessly as a large number of vicious beasts crossed the broken defensive line of the Jade Sea fort and invaded the human countries. If it were in the past, the green ruins would have definitely been locked onto by the Jade Sea fortress's aerial defenses if it had flown over at full speed. However, due to the interference of space, basically half of the aerial defenses had been paralyzed. Even with the green ruins' arrival, the defenses of the Jade Sea fortress were powerless. The Jade Sea fortress has already fallen. Based on this trend, it will take at most 2 days for the entire Jade Sea fortress to be completely destroyed. The remaining soldiers stubbornly resisting will probably all be wiped out. Qing Su glanced around. He could not care less about the vicious beasts that constantly attacked the Jade Sea fortress. His gaze directly landed on the center of the vicious beasts, and then, he suddenly accelerated. At this moment, Xing Hui, who was originally 10,000 meters in the air, pushed his speed to the limit. As he flew, he constantly suppressed the atmosphere in front of him, causing the atmospheric pressure to reach an unprecedented peak. In the end, he seemed to be lifting an invisible mountain as he fell like a meteor into the most concentrated area of beasts 5 kilometers away from the Jade Sea fortress. The moment the meteor struck the ground, the shockwave from the impact swept out in all directions. The ground was like the surface of a lake that had a stone thrown into it. At first, it sank slightly, and then a shockwave swept through the area where Tsing-Hui had fallen and pulverized all living creatures within a radius of several kilometers. Even the disaster-grade beasts 3 to 4 kilometers away were sent flying into the air by the shockwave, falling heavily to their deaths. The power of this explosion was not inferior to the detonation of a nuclear bomb with a yield of 100,000 tons. This is 5 kilometers away. Marshal Jiang Kunlun, who had yet to retreat from the fortress, suddenly widened his eyes when he sensed the terrifying power of the earthquake. He stared in the direction of the earthquake as if he wanted to see what was happening 5 kilometers away. However, as a black dot rushed into the void, a second terrifying force spread out like a meteor. Jiang Kunlun seemed to have seen something clearly, and an uncontrollable excitement surged in his heart. He was so surprised that he looked up to the sky and shouted, "He's here!" Chapter 728. He's here. The vice president of the Warrior Association, Wu Bieshan, who was leading the elites in a bloody battle beside Jiang Kunlun, was first stunned when he heard Jiang Kunlun's surprised exclamation. Then, his pupils dilated as he stared at the air pressure shockwaves 5 to 6 kilometers away that seemed to have been formed by a nuclear bomb. A name instantly flashed through his mind. Tsing-Hui. Tsing-Hui. The Supreme King Tsing-Hui. It's King Tsing-Hui. He's here. He's finally here. The deputy commander of the fortress, Qi Jun, let out a cry of relief. The members of the Hornless Dragon squad who had fought side by side with Tsing-Hui were even more ecstatic. We're saved, we're saved. King Tsing-Hui is here. We're saved. Amidst everyone's exclamations, Tsing-Hui, who had just landed, leaped up once again. The Scarlet Abyss sword vibrated at high speed in his hand, rapidly compressing the air, forming a visible white sword glow. This white sword glow tore through the air with a deafening explosion, killing all the creatures in a straight line 3 to 4 kilometers in front of him, clearing out a path. The dire beasts that were slashed, regardless of whether they were Lord or Great Lord, Calamity, Annihilation, or even the despair-inducing Apocalypse, all exploded into blood foam as if they had been hit by a high-explosive bomb. Not even their bones were left behind. Too slow. Tsing-Hui slashed out. Although he had killed hundreds of dire beasts, he was still not satisfied with this result. Sweeping his gaze, he once again focused on a group of dire beasts. Then, he leaped up and widened the distance between himself and the Jade Sea Fortress. Then, a scorching sun suddenly appeared in his spiritual world, Spirit Storm. The killing move with the greatest lethality, Spirit Storm. As the spiritual storm swept across, the spiritual worlds of all the ferocious beasts within a 10-kilometer radius were incinerated into ashes by the boundless destructive power. Be it ordinary ferocious beasts or apocalyptic-level ferocious beasts, they did not even have the time to cry out in pain before they silently fell to the ground and crashed heavily. Clear the field. This was a skill that could clear the field. However, Tsing-Hui frowned after using this skill to clear the area. There was no doubt about the lethality of the spiritual storm, but this spiritual secret technique was not technical at all. It was almost equivalent to the Sword of the Glorious Sun. It condensed one's spiritual power into a point and burst it out. Not only did it have the disadvantage of attacking indiscriminately, but it also consumed a lot of spiritual power. If this were a regular battle, he would have been able to use the mental storm to clear the battlefield, but right now, there were just far too many vicious beasts charging over from the spatial tunnel of the Jade Sea. They were like mountains and seas, boundless as far as the eye could see. According to Qing Su's estimation, there were at least 1 million vicious beasts charging over. It would not be strange even if there were over 10 million. With a sweep of his spiritual storm, he could indeed clear out an area of more than a dozen kilometers and wipe out all the vicious beasts within this area. However, it wouldn't be long before this area would be filled with vicious beasts again. At that time, how many times would he be able to use this kind of secret technique that consumed a lot of energy? The scariest thing about the vicious beasts is not their strength, but their numbers. At this moment, he had a new understanding of the vicious beasts in front of him. Xiao. A white sword ray formed from compressed air accompanied by the deep scarlet sword chi once again plowed through 3 to 4 kilometers in front of him. Wherever the sword chi went, the vicious beasts were annihilated. Even the powerful annihilation grade and annihilation grade vicious beasts could not withstand the might of the sword. Unfortunately, it was too slow. Even though he could kill dozens or even hundreds of ferocious beasts with a single slash through air compression and other means, when faced with the charge of millions, tens of millions, or even tens of millions of ferocious beasts, he was still like a lone boat in a storm. He could only watch as the ferocious beasts circled around from several dozen kilometers away, crossing the Jade Sea Fortress defense line and charging deeper into the human world. My efficiency is too low if I'm alone, Xing Hui slashed out again. After clearing out the vicious beasts in front of him, he already felt the problem. The only area of effect attack I have is the spiritual storm, but the consumption of the spiritual storm is too great. In this situation, if I had the Six Suns world-suppressing art of the illuminating world gate, I would definitely be invincible. Unfortunately, Xing Hui muttered to himself. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind as he pondered on how to deal with this vicious beast tide. After a moment, an idea suddenly flashed through his mind. Although I don't have a divine ability like the Six Suns world suppression art that can suppress an entire continent, I still have an area of effect offensive skills. Apart from the spiritual storm, I also have another technique. That is the 49 Great Sword Chi that I just obtained from the Shu Mountain Grotto Heaven. The 49 Great Derivation Sword Chi was formed with Xing Hui's essence, Chi, and spirit as the foundation. Because it lacked the element of Chi, its power was weak and not worth mentioning. It was far from being comparable to Xing Hui's casual punch. However, to kill a group of vicious beasts that were at most class 6, with his tyrannical physique that was equivalent to a class 10 holy beast, why would he need to concentrate on a single punch? Didn't you see that the sword chi he slashed out could kill Lord class, Great Lord class, Disaster class, Annihilation class, and Annihilation class vicious beasts? The Dian sword chi was useless against class 10 and even class 9 ferocious beasts, but if it was used to kill class 6, class 5, or even class 4 and class 3 ferocious beasts, it could be said to be completely easy and unstoppable. Phew! Xing Hui let out a long breath. The chi and blood in his body were guided by his spirit's power and immediately condensed in his 49 acupoints. As his aura continued to slide down, blood-red longswords were condensed by him and floated in front of him. Soon, there were 49 swords. However, these 49 blood-red longswords were forcibly condensed by Xing Hui and were almost never nurtured. They only had the basic ability of the 49 Great Derivation Sword Chi. In terms of power, each sword of chi and blood could barely kill class 8 vicious beasts. It should be noted that the classification of vicious beasts was different from that of humans. 49 transformative realm human warriors were naturally superior to a golden elixir realm cultivator, but this was not necessarily the case among vicious beasts. Not to mention that Xing Hui himself was equivalent to a class 10 holy beast. Therefore, condensing 49 swords of chi and blood that were difficult to kill class 8 vicious beasts not only did not increase Xing Hui's combat strength, but it also divided and weakened his combat strength. However, the sword chi technique that had slightly reduced his combat strength was just right to be used in the midst of the endless attacks of the ferocious beasts. Go! Xing Hui used his mind as a guide. Light shot out from his eyes, and immediately, the 49 swords of chi and blood turned into streaks of blood-red light that shot toward all the vicious beasts within the range of his mental senses. These swords of chi and blood were extremely pure and condensed. Let alone ordinary vicious beasts, even the scales of apocalyptic-level vicious beasts would be like paper in front of them. They would be pierced through in a single blow. Although the quality of the vicious beasts on the battlefield had increased significantly, they were still far from the level of apocalyptic-level vicious beasts that could be seen everywhere. At best, they were at the level of the vicious beasts near the spatial passage on the southern shore of the Mediterranean Sea. The only difference was that there were more of them. Under such circumstances, none of the vicious beasts could resist his 49 swords of chi and blood. They instantly swept up a bloody storm among the vicious beasts. Powerful Lord class, Great Lord class, Disaster class, Annihilation class, and Apocalyptic class vicious beasts were easily killed. Even the larger creatures were not spared by the swords of qi and blood. The Great Expansion sword qi condensed by Tsing Hui was not as simple as just sharpness and speed. When they shot into the vicious beasts' bodies, they vibrated intensely and erupted with high-frequency shockwaves. The effect was basically like detonating a bomb in the vicious beasts' bodies, instantly reducing the vicious beasts' bodies to bloody pulp. What was the point of having the vicious beasts' bodies and ferocious appearances when their bodies had already been shattered? Alright. Tsing Hui used less than 10 breaths to kill all the vicious beasts within a 20-kilometer radius around him. He did not stop at all. Bending his feet slightly, he erupted with power and broke through the sound barrier like a cannonball, charging towards another battlefield densely packed with vicious beasts. At the same time his figure swept across the battlefield with a sonic boom, the 49 strands of Great Expansion sword qi swept through the blood-colored storm and crazily shot at the hundreds and thousands of ferocious beasts around him. If someone was watching at this moment, or if there were satellite surveillance, they would notice that as Tsing Hui's body passed by, there would be dozens of red lines wantonly slaughtering the vicious beasts around him at a speed that was beyond what human vision could capture. All the vicious beasts along the way were like wheat being harvested, crying out in pain and collapsing one after another. The speed was so fast that it was even faster than the Jade Sea Fortress that was stubbornly resisting. Clear the battlefield. This is a true clearing of the battlefield. Compared to this efficiency of clearing the battlefield, the spiritual storm that consumes a lot of energy can't be compared at all. Tsing Hui's body shuttled back and forth as he sighed from the bottom of his heart. Although the blood-colored Great Expansion sword qi would be depleted when it shot through the vicious beasts and pierced through their bodies, the depletion was almost negligible. Even if the Great Expansion sword qi's vital energy was greatly depleted, he only needed to absorb the sword qi back into his body and nourish it again. With the powerful physique of a 10th class Saint Beast, the Great Expansion sword qi would be able to recover to its original state and return to the battlefield. Even though the number of ferocious beasts was innumerable, numbering in the millions, or even tens of millions, when swathes of ferocious beasts were slaughtered, the ferocious beasts still felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. After killing for an unknown period of time, even Tsing Hui with his 10th class Saint Beast physique could feel his vital energy deteriorating rapidly. As his face faintly paled, the vicious beasts in the surroundings finally began to thin out. There were even some places where not a single vicious beast could be seen within a few square kilometers. When he sensed that the vicious beasts that were charging at the Jade Sea Fortress were retreating in panic and fleeing towards the spatial tunnel, Tsing Hui let out a slight sigh of relief. Then, the 49 Great Expansion sword qi that had mostly dissipated returned to Tsing Hui's body. With the replenishment of this vital energy, Tsing Hui's originally somewhat pale complexion recovered slightly. However, he still felt that his limbs were cold and his entire body was powerless. This was because he had exhausted too much of his vital energy. After all, the number of vicious beasts he had killed just now was truly too many. Even if he did not count them in detail, he did not need to think to know that it was definitely in the millions. It's about time. Tsing Hui slightly adjusted his vital energy and did not fly back to the Jade Sea Fortress. Instead, he maintained a constant speed while not using too much of his vital energy. Chapter 729. The beasts seem to have suddenly disappeared. Yes, the number of beasts coming from the front lines seems to be decreasing. What's going on? Could it be that this wave of beasts is finally over? Sigh, even if this wave of beasts is over, we have to evacuate from the Jade Sea Fort. We humans have no advantage in fighting the beasts within the range of the spatial interference. The only way is to retreat outside the range of the spatial interference and rebuild a defensive base. Only then can we continue to resist the attacks of the beasts. Atop Jade Sea Fort, the many soldiers and cultivators guarding the fort watched as the number of fierce beasts gradually dwindled. Soon, only a few hundred fierce beasts remained and all of them breathed a sigh of relief. With this relief, everyone felt a kind of exhaustion from the bottom of their hearts. They didn't even have the energy to cheer that they had finally escaped from this huge wave of beasts. Some people looked around at the comrades they had been talking to a few days ago, only to see them turn into cold corpses at this moment. They completely lost the mood to cheer, and those with weaker minds couldn't help but cry in pain beside their comrades. Gloomy clouds. When Xing Hui returned to the Jade Sea Fort, he saw such a gloomy scene. Sighing inwardly, Xing Hui went straight to the command center that Jiang Xingdao, Jiang Kunlun, Qi Jun, Wu Biashan, and the others had set up. The soldiers could rest after the ferocious beasts retreated, but the higher-ups had to redeploy defense and rescue plans, even though many of them had just finished fighting the ferocious beasts at the front line and did not even have time to change out of their blood-stained uniforms. Marshal, General, King Xing Hui is here. A few of the higher-ups were discussing something when the guard at the door quickly came in and reported in an excited tone. King Xing Hui is here. It's here, it's finally here. It's all thanks to the King of Green Ruins that our Jade Sea Fort was able to survive this unprecedented beast tide. Otherwise, our Jade Sea Fort would probably have been breached just like the Eternal River Fort, resulting in a bloodbath and a tragedy in the end. Quick, quick, invite King Xing Hui in. No, I'll go out and greet him personally. Jiang Kunlun, Jiang Xingdao, Qi Jun, and the others were overjoyed. They quickly put down what they were doing and went out to greet him. Marshal Jiang. Xing Hui came to the command center and was about to meet Jiang Kunlun and the others, who were about to come out to greet him. He asked, Ancient Jade City should be fine, right? Don't worry, King Xing Hui. Jade Sea Fort has been here all this time. Although many beasts have managed to get past our Jade Sea Fort and enter our defensive zone, there are only a few of them. We haven't let any of the Annihilation-class beasts pass through. Without an Annihilation-class beast leading the way, there aren't many of them. The nearby cities also have powerful defenses. I don't think the beasts will be able to do much. Ancient Jade City is very safe. You don't have to worry about that, King Xing Hui. Ancient Jade City's defenses are no weaker than a main city's. Between Ancient Jade City and Jade Sea Fort, there is the Ecliptic Main City's defense line. The beasts won't be able to get to Ancient Jade City. Everyone knew why Xing Hui had asked about Ancient Jade City, so they quickly responded. Qing Su nodded. Compared to the Jade Sea Fort, the Ancient Jade City could already be considered as inland. He believed that there would not be too much danger there, which was why he had chosen to come to the Jade Sea Fort as soon as he learned about the vicious beast's rampage instead of the ancient Jade City. What's going on? Why did a beast tide suddenly erupt? It's not a beast tide. A bitter smile appeared on Jiang Kunlun's face. If it was a beast tide, although it's dangerous, as long as we can force the invading beasts to retreat, we can still take back the territory we lost. However, the situation this time is much more serious than the beast tide outbreak. After saying that, he looked at Xing Hui with a helpless expression. This phenomenon. The spatial passageways have expanded again. The spatial passageways have expanded? Worldwide. Yes, all the spatial passageways around the world have expanded. What's even more helpless is that the number of spatial passageways has increased again. Now, excluding the spatial passageway at Mount Dongyang, the number of spatial passageways has reached 16. 16. Yes, 16. The only fortunate thing is that only one of these 16 spatial passageways is linked to our Huaxia region. Moreover, that one's location is a little special. Ha, Jiang Kunlun sneered when he said that. A little special? Yes. It's Ryukyu Main City. Ryukyu Main City. When Xing Hui heard that, he understood why Jiang Kunlun had such a reaction. Ryukyu Main City was the island of treasure during the Huaxia region's national era. When the Earth Federation divided the regions, Ryukyu Main City tried to get the approval of the Federation government to designate Ryukyu Main City as the Ryukyu district. However, the higher-ups of the Huaxia region tried their best to stop them. Unfortunately, although Ryukyu main city did not receive the same treatment as the Ryukyu district, it only belonged to the Huaxia region in name. Economically and politically, Ryukyu main city was still independent. That's good. Our Huaxia region is quite lucky this time, but the Yinhe district is in trouble. The Eternal River stronghold has been destroyed, and the spatial passageway that was originally only 600 kilometers in radius has expanded to 1,600 kilometers. In addition, a new spatial passageway has opened less than 1,800 kilometers away from the Eternal River stronghold. The two spatial passageways have joined together, and the entire Yinhe district has almost fallen. It's not just the Yinhe district. The Tsar district is also in a terrible situation. Two of the new spatial passageways are located in the Tsar district, and the original spatial passageway in the Tsar district has expanded more than twice its original size. Even if the Tsar district has always been strong, facing such a sudden change, I'm afraid it will be very dangerous. I think we should all be prepared to be transferred to the Tsar district to assist in the defense. After all, once the Tsar district has fallen, these ferocious beasts will definitely continue to head south and rush into our Huaxia region. This is not the most terrifying thing. 7 years ago, the spatial passageway expanded once, forcing our civilization on Earth to be fully prepared for war. Now, only 7 years have passed, and the spatial passageway has expanded again. The living space of our civilization on Earth has been greatly reduced. If the spatial passageway expands for the third time in another 7 years, I'm afraid half of the Earth will be covered by the power of space interference. When that time comes, where can we hide? Jiang Kunlun, Jiang Xingdao, and the other higher-ups in the command room with the rank of general were worried. However, even Qing Su was unable to give an answer to this question. The law of space, it was too mysterious. As the divine tree that imprisoned Earth gradually dissipated, the heaven and earth origin energy would return to Earth, and many laws would gradually appear. However, this was something that would happen in a few decades. According to the law of the spatial passageway expanding once every 7 years, human civilization would probably be completely wiped out in the fourth expansion of the spatial passageway. Unless, retreat to the Kunlun and Mount Shu paradise. Or even find a way to stabilize and expand the transmission array between Mount Dongyang and the Fortune continent, and then directly retreat to the divine wilderness. 7 years is actually an ideal number. Originally, according to the data collected by the scientists, we would need to wait another 42 years. That would mean a total of 49 years before the space tunnel would expand again. But more than 20 days ago, the data changed. The time it would take for the space tunnel to expand was greatly reduced. It was shortened from 42 years to 18 years. But even 18 years would be good. With the existence of the flesh and blood essence of many vicious beasts, after 18 years, we humans would be able to produce many Lord-class warriors. Those talented people might even be able to reach the level of the Annihilation-class vicious beasts. When the time comes, we can increase our numbers. With the help of many modern weapons, we might be able to fight the vicious beasts. But we don't even have 18 years. The space tunnel expanded 4 days ago, which caught us all off guard. Jiang Kunlun sighed heavily. Right now, we still don't know if there will be vicious beasts above the apocalypse level after the expansion of the spatial passageway. Let's not be so pessimistic for now. Wu Biashan comforted. In the end, he looked at Xing Hui and said with a smile, besides, don't we still have King Xing Hui on our side? As long as King Xing Hui is still alive, these vicious beasts will not be able to do anything to us in the Huaxia region. When Jiang Kunlun heard Wu Biashan mention Xing Hui, his mood recovered a lot. He forced a smile and said, that's right, we have King Xing Hui on our side. We saw the scene of King Xing Hui killing the vicious beasts just now. It was really amazing. Wait a minute. At this time, Xing Hui was thinking about the 2 pieces of data that Jiang Kunlun had mentioned earlier. You said that according to the data obtained by the scientists, the spatial passageway would expand again in 42 years, but because of the change in the data 20 days ago, the time has shortened from 42 years to 18 years? That's right. The spatial passageway expanded 4 days ago. Do you have a specific time? The specific time is around 3 in the afternoon, it's 3:16, Qi Jun added from behind Jiang Xingdao, at 3:16, there was a spatial disturbance on our side. 3:16 in the afternoon, Xing Hui felt a chill in his heart. If he remembered correctly, when he took the fortune jade from the divine tree in the Shu Mountain Grotto Heaven, causing the anti-magic seal on the divine tree to gradually disappear, it was also at that time. Could it be, the seal on the divine tree in the Shu Mountain Grotto Heaven was not to imprison Earth's civilization, but to protect Earth's civilization? To prevent Earth's civilization from being detected and invaded by alien civilizations? And because I activated the fortune jade for the first time to teleport, Earth's civilization was immediately targeted by a certain force, so that force broke through the seal on Earth's civilization and opened up several spatial passageways. And 25 days ago, I teleported back from the divine wilderness, so, the efficiency of those forces breaking through the seal on Earth's civilization greatly increased. Thinking of this, Xing Hui suddenly felt a chill in the bottom of his heart. He seemed to have he had committed a grave mistake. Chapter 730. I need the detailed data from the scientists. Xing Hui said in a deep voice. Jiang Kunlun noticed Xing Hui's solemn expression and immediately became serious. I'll have them send the data over immediately. After saying that, he asked, what happened? Could it be that there will be a new round of changes in the space passage? I can't confirm it for the time being. I need to get the data before making a judgment. Send the data directly to Ancient Jade City. I need to go there. Ancient Jade City. King Xing Hui. Currently, other places are being attacked by dire beasts. At this time, when Jiang Kunlun heard that Xing Hui was about to leave, he immediately opened his mouth as if he wanted to ask him to go to the other fortresses to help. Xing Hui did not stop walking outside. I need to ensure the safety of Ancient Jade City first. Or, have you found the person I'm looking for? Looking at Xing Hui who was quickly leaving, Jiang Kunlun opened his mouth but finally sighed. At the same time, he turned to Qi Jun, you haven't found the person yet? We have spread the news that King Xing Hui is looking for Miss Jiang Ningji to every corner of the world. It can be said that any settlement with more than 100 people has heard this news. However, so far, no one has been confirmed to be Miss Jiang Ningji. Therefore, we estimate that Miss Jiang Ningji is most likely dead under the influence of the dire beast disaster over the years, Qi Jun said with a gloomy expression. Most likely dead. Jiang Kunlun sighed. Jiang Kunlun sighed. He understood that this was unavoidable. Earth's civilization was invaded, and countless people were displaced. No one was spared. Not to mention Jiang Ningji, many kings and presidents of small countries had lost their lives in the impact of the dire beast disaster. The King of Green Ruins may be powerful, but there are far too few people in the entire Earth civilization who can affect him. There's only Qing Yuming, and he doesn't care about anyone else apart from Qing Yuming. Without any restraints, he naturally doesn't care about anyone else. It's naturally much more difficult for us to borrow his strength to repel the invasion of the Ferals. The reason he's willing to save us now is because he's a member of the Huaxia region, and we've helped him many times in the past. This matter isn't just about him, right? The invasion of the dire beasts was related to the life and death of the entire Earth civilization. If the entire Earth civilization was destroyed by the invasion of the alien civilization, and he was the only one left, even if he was still alive, what was the point? Don't tell me he doesn't even understand this. Wu Biashan from the Warrior Association said angrily. Jiang Kunlun glanced at Wu Biashan and said after a moment of silence, aren't you all curious as to how Monarch Xing Hui has such terrifying power? When Jiang Xingdao heard Jiang Kunlun mention this question that they didn't dare to touch before, he couldn't help but be shocked. Could it be that the speculation over there has been confirmed? It's only a possibility, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. After all, some of his actions are really incomprehensible to us. For example, if he has really joined the alien civilization that invaded us, then there's no need for him to help us defend the Jade Sea Fortress and kill the beasts in the fortress. Could it be that the alien civilization doesn't have the power to resist us? Impossible. Jiang Kunlun shook his head. According to our observation of Tsing Hui's strength, our Earth civilization can't do anything to him. He doesn't have to worry about the possible retaliation of our Earth civilization. This is also why many scientists have clearly confirmed this problem, but they didn't dare to announce it. Even, the upper echelons of the parliament didn't dare to discuss this issue in detail or even make a decision. Damn it! How could this be? Monarch Tsing Hui, who can save the world in our hearts, is actually... A trace of pain and even despair flashed in Jiang Shengdao's eyes. If even Tsing Hui came from the extraterrestrial civilization and became their hired thug, then would the Earth civilization still have a way to survive? Alright, the situation hasn't deteriorated to the final stage yet. After all, according to the various traces, while the Green Ruins King might be involved with the extraterrestrial civilization, his actions are not completely aligned with the extraterrestrial civilization. As a result, we still have hope. Therefore, you absolutely cannot mention this to the Green Ruins King or anyone else. Otherwise, if you are careless and force the Green Ruins King to the camp of the extraterrestrial civilization, it will be a great disaster that the entire Earth Federation cannot endure. Jiang Kunlun warned with a solemn face. When the others heard this, they immediately shivered and agreed. They naturally understood the seriousness of the matter. Marshal, since Monarch Tsing Hui may have that identity, why should we give him the data related to the expansion of the space channel? At this time, Qi Jun asked, somewhat puzzled. Jiang Kunlun fell silent. After a while, he slowly said, you must remember one thing. Before Monarch Tsing Hui completely betrays the Earth civilization and goes against humanity, he is the only martial arts monarch of our Earth civilization. This point cannot be changed by any doubt. Although the Jade Sea Fortress was built on the first line of defense against the Jade Sea Space Channel, the higher-ups of the Huaxia region had obviously considered the problem of the Jade Sea Fortress being breached. Therefore, between 100 and 300 kilometers away from the Jade Sea Fortress, 3 lines of defense were built. Naturally, the scale of these 3 lines of defense could not be compared to the Jade Sea Fortress, but they also had powerful defensive capabilities. The number of troops stationed at these places was in the millions. Under such circumstances, although the ferocious beasts broke through the Jade Sea Fortress's line of defense, only a small number of them were able to kill their way to ancient Jade City. In addition, as a large city, ancient Jade City also had strong defensive capabilities and garrison troops. The ferocious beasts that attacked ancient Jade City in 2s and 3s did not have time to cause any real damage to the city before they were wiped out by the local garrison forces. However, even with that being the case, when Qing Su arrived in the city, he could clearly sense the presence of fear that filled the entire city. Tsing Hui fell silent for a moment. His right hand subconsciously reached into his pocket. When he returned from the divine wilderness world, he had considered the possibility of Earth having an anti-magic environment. After all, he had learned a lesson from Dongqian. Therefore, when he bought many treasures and put them in his personal space, he also carried 3 items with him. These 3 items were the Scarlet Abyss Sword, the Unfallen Flower, and a bottle of soul-refining pills that could strengthen one's physique and extend one's life by 60 years. With his status, the quality of the pills that he could collect was naturally not bad. There were a total of 10 soul-refining pills that could strengthen one's physique and extend one's life by 60 years. The effect, it could strengthen a mortal's physique to the level of a Class 6 dire beast. If it was someone with a strong foundation, it would not be difficult to strengthen their physique to Class 7. This degree of strengthening was nothing in the divine wilderness world. After all, even a Class 7 dire beast was at best equivalent to a true energy boundary powerhouse. It was nothing in front of Tsing Hui, but in Earth's civilization, that would be incredible. It should be known that the strongest martial artists in Earth's civilization were only comparable to a disaster-level dire beast. A disaster-level dire beast was a Class 4 dire beast. Human martial artists could fight against a disaster-level dire beast not because they had a Class 4 physique, but because they had excellent equipment and exquisite martial arts skills. In addition, the so-called Class 4 dire beasts of this world did not possess many of the mystical abilities of the divine wilderness world's dire beasts. They could only use pure physical strength. This allowed these Class 3 humans to defeat Class 4 disaster-level dire beasts. If Jiang Xingdao and the others were to take these 10 soul-refining pills, their combat strength would definitely surpass that of an apocalypse-level dire beast, and they would be able to fight against a leader-level dire beast. If some talented people broke through to Class 7, it would not be an extravagant hope to easily kill a leader-level dire beast. Although Earth's civilization was in a dangerous situation before, those dire beasts were still within the Earth Federation's ability to deal with. Therefore, he naturally did not want to contribute these soul-refining pills for nothing. He only promised to give one to whoever found Jiang Ningji as a reward. But now, the spatial passage expanded again, and the pressure on the Earth Federation skyrocketed. In addition, he vaguely knew that the invasion of Earth's civilization by dire beasts was most likely related to him. He had to make some decisions. I have to choose a few talented people. Otherwise, the spatial passage this time has greatly damaged the vitality of human civilization. When the spatial passage expands again, humans will definitely not be able to resist. Xing Hui thought to himself, and then sensed his father, Qing Yuming. Because the people of ancient Jade City were in a panic, Qing Yuming was holding a meeting to discuss the matter of calming the people. Xing Hui was silent for a moment and did not disturb him. He only decided to wait until he was done with his business and let him practice martial arts a little. Although Qing Yuming was not a martial artist, he could get a soul-refining pill with his identity. As for the rest, wait a minute. Whoosh! Xing Hui's figure flashed and landed at the ancient Jade City Research Institute. Not long after entering the Research Institute, President Kubi, his assistant Havril, and Shi Chui and Sima Xing, who were already stationed here to help him deal with some trivial matters, came out to greet him at the same time. King Xing Hui, thank you for your help. If it were not for you, I'm afraid that the Jade Sea Fortress would not have been able to hold on. On behalf of all the people of the Huaxia region under the protection of the Jade Sea Fortress, we sincerely thank you for your help. When Shi Chui and Sima Xing saw Xing Hui, they bowed respectfully at the same time and thanked him sincerely. No need to be so polite. I may not care about the other regions for the time being, but I still remember that I am a member of the Huaxia region. Xing Hui waved his hand and glanced at Shi Chui and Sima Xing. He organized his words and said, "There is one thing I need to tell you. The Warrior Association, the local government, and the military can each choose 10 people to come to my place for assessment. If their strength and talent are satisfactory to me, I can personally teach them martial arts cultivation and help them break through to a higher realm." Chapter 731. Teach them martial arts and help them reach a higher level. Shi Chui and Sima Xing were shocked. They immediately realized the importance of the opportunity in front of them. They couldn't help but be happy. King Xing Hui, please don't worry. We will arrange it immediately. If King Xing Hui is willing to teach them, it is their honor. I believe that none of the warriors in the Warrior Association will miss this opportunity. Yes, go and arrange it. The people I want to teach must have both strength and talent. You should understand the situation of the Earth Federation. If they have talent but no strength, even if I teach them, they may not be able to grow in a short time. Of course, if they are very talented, it is fine even if they are weaker. Do you understand what I mean? We understand. King Xing Hui, please don't worry. The people we choose will not disappoint you. Sima Xing solemnly agreed. I don't want there to be any backdoor issues. This matter concerns the life and death of Earth's civilization. Once I detect any problems, I won't give any pointers to the 10 people you've selected. Shi Chui and Sima Xing quickly promised. King Xing Hui, please don't worry. No one will dare to interfere with this. Otherwise, they will be the sinners of the Earth Federation. Xing Hui nodded. Has the research institute sent the data regarding the expansion of the space tunnel? It has been sent. King Xinghui, please follow me. Kubi quickly went forward and respectfully led the way. They quickly entered the research institute. Shi Chui and Sima Xing looked at each other after Xinghui left. They smiled and said, "This is great. If King Xinghui helps, the Huaxia region will have many more elites. Perhaps it won't be long before there are warriors who can fight the annihilation class beasts. Unfortunately, there are only 30 people. That is too little. Sigh. Let's report this as soon as possible. President Sima Xing, we have to be strict about this. We will not allow anyone to do anything. Don't worry. I understand the seriousness of this matter. If something goes wrong and King Xinghui is disappointed, we will not have the chance to be taught by him. Yes, we will report this matter." Shi Chui and Sima Xing were both people who could reach the heavens. Their news quickly fell into the hands of the great governor Lv Zhongyuan, the president of the Martial Artist Association Ran Donglai, and the marshal of the Huaxia Military Department Jiang Kunlun. After receiving the news, the few chairman-level figures who stood at the very top of the Huaxia Council immediately called for a small meeting in private. On one hand, they wanted to choose a suitable candidate. On the other hand, they ordered that the research institute's data and the speculations that the green ruins might be related to the extraterrestrial civilization be sealed up. No one was allowed to use them easily. Xinghui's behavior model, psychological model, and other data that had been established by many experts, perhaps Xinghui was really related to the extraterrestrial civilization. However, at least everything he had done so far was on the side of the federal government and the Huaxia region. Therefore, unless he really announced that he was leaving the Earth civilization, no one was allowed to destroy the relationship between Xinghui and the Huaxia region, or even the entire federal government. Xinghui didn't know about these high-level meetings. At this moment, he had put all his energy into reading the data on the expansion of the space channel. The more he read, the colder his heart became. After he spent a whole day reading all the information, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Sitting in his seat, Xinghui's face was a little pale. However, he had experienced a lot in the divine wilderness, so he quickly forced himself to calm down. Things had already happened. The most important thing now was not to blame himself, but to find a way to make up for the mistakes he had unintentionally made. The anti-magic enchantment supported by the divine tree was responsible for protecting the Earth, so that the Earth would not be exposed to the dangerous universe forest. Because I took away the creation jade that provided the energy, the enchantment supported by the divine tree had a change in energy and a gap appeared. This allowed the extraterrestrial civilization to sense the opportunity and expand the space channel, allowing more and more powerful beasts to invade the Earth. Xinghui thought about the information he had read about the Eternal River Stronghold. During the battle at the Eternal River Stronghold, hundreds of apocalyptic beasts and 24 leader-level beasts appeared. It was because of these leader-level beasts that the Eternal River Stronghold was defeated. And according to the strength and number of beasts he killed in the Mediterranean Sea Space Channel, there should be real king-level beasts on Earth. However, there should be very few of them, no more than 10. Moreover, they should be hidden near the space channel to protect the safety of the space channel. According to the latest data, the next expansion of the space channel should be in 38 years. However, because esteemed Zhu Zhao will open the teleportation array to take me to the divine wilderness in a year, according to the previous data, 16 years. The time limit for the expansion of the space channel will be shortened to 16 years. In other words, before I go to the divine wilderness, I must return to Earth within 16 years. Otherwise, Earth will definitely be plunged into misery and suffering during the third expansion of the space channel. At that time, not to mention the other space channels, just the Jade Sea Space Channel spatial interference range will reach more than 5 million square kilometers. In addition to the space channel in Ryukyu main city, it will already cover 3/4 of the Huaxia region. This is not the most terrifying factor. The most terrifying factor is that when the space channel expands, stronger beasts will descend. Once the stronger beasts arrive, the king-level beasts will walk out of the spatial interference range and join the attack on the remnants of human civilization. At that time, Earth's civilization would be in danger of being destroyed. In the 16 years in the divine wilderness, I have to cultivate to the realm of world creation with a thought. Only then will I be able to destroy this constantly expanding spatial passageway and block the extraterrestrial civilization outside the magic ceiling enchantment supported by the divine tree. Tsing Hui's heart sank. Moreover, this was not the end. The anti-magic barrier supported by the divine tree had lost the continuous supply of energy from the fortune jade. It would collapse in 50 to 60 years if it was fast, and 100 years if it was slow. At that time, even if he destroyed the space channel, without the anti-magic barrier of the divine tree, Earth's civilization would be completely exposed to the attacks of the extraterrestrial civilization. Tsing Hui sensed the perfectly round fortune jade in his spiritual world. He could see the existence of the creation divine jade, but he could not move it at all. If he could, he really wanted to move this piece of creation divine jade out of his spiritual world and turn it into the energy source of the divine tree. This way, he could permanently exclude these extraterrestrial civilizations from the anti-magic barrier and ensure the safety of Earth's civilization. Unfortunately, there was nothing he could do. President Tsing Hui. Seeing that Tsing Hui had not flipped through the information for a while and seemed to be resting with his eyes closed, Havril, who was acting as his assistant, whispered. Tsing Hui tilted his head slightly. Havril took a deep breath and said in a trembling voice, Military Commander Lord Jiang Kunlun, Great Governor His Excellency LV Zhongyuan, and His Excellency Ran Donglai of the Warriors Association rushed to our ancient Jade City 2 hours ago to see you. What do you think? When do you want to see them? While speaking, there was a deep sense of awe in her eyes. Even though she thought that she already had a sufficient understanding of this elder brother that had appeared out of nowhere, she still didn't expect that this elder brother's influence and status would actually be so great to such an extent. Commander-in-Chief Jiang Kunlun, Great Governor LV Zhongyuan, and President Ran Donglai, these three big shots with the greatest power in the Huaxia region, had personally come to ancient Jade City to see him. When they learned that he was busy flipping through the information, they did not want to disturb him and were willing to wait in the conference room outside. It was simply beyond her imagination. Are they here? Where should I see them? They are now in the conference room in the Research Institute. Okay, take me there. Tsing Hui said and stood up. Led by Havril, he walked toward the conference room. The conference room of the Research Institute was naturally not high-end, but now, it was strictly protected. Although the soldiers did not think that anyone could hurt the big shots in the conference room because of the presence of top powerhouses like Jiang Kunlun, Jiang Xingdao, and Ran Donglai, these soldiers still loyally performed their duties. Soon, Tsing Hui had already arrived outside the conference room. Outside the conference room, after all the elite guards saw Tsing Hui, the leader of the guards with the highest cultivation, shouted loudly, "Salute!" Pa! Immediately, all the guards looked at Tsing Hui with a solemn expression and raised their hands to salute. This was their respect for Tsing Hui for saving the lives of hundreds of thousands of soldiers in Jade Sea Fortress. As soldiers, they did not know too many fancy words. They could only use this action to express their gratitude and respect for Tsing Hui. Seeing this, Tsing Hui also became a little more dignified. He returned the salute and then walked into the conference room through the door opened by the leader of the guards. The conference room was not big, but there were more than 40 people standing there at the moment. It looked a little crowded. When Tsing Hui came to the conference room, all the people who were talking and busy all looked at Tsing Hui. Even Great Governor LV Zhongyuan, Warrior Association President Ran Donglai, and Military Commander Jiang Kunlun stood up immediately and greeted him, King Tsing Hui. Your Excellency Great Governor, President Ran Donglai, Marshal Jiang Kunlun. Tsing Hui nodded slightly at them, sorry to keep you waiting. No, with the contributions King Tsing Hui made in Jade Sea Fortress, waiting for King Tsing Hui here is what we should do. LV Zhongyuan said solemnly. Jiang Kunlun also stepped forward with a solemn expression. According to the cleanup over the entire day, we have calculated that in the battle yesterday, the King of Green Ruins killed more than 2,370,000 ferocious beasts below calamity level, 9,662 calamity level ferocious beasts, 504 annihilation level ferocious beasts, and 32 apocalyptic level ferocious beasts. Not only did they save our Jade Ocean Fortress, but the blood essence of these ferocious beasts can also help our civilization create thousands of Lord-class martial artists, hundreds of great Lord-class martial artists, and more than 10 disaster-class martial artists. Chapter 732. If a martial artist wanted to quickly increase their cultivation, the best way was to consume and refine the blood essence of powerful vicious beasts. However, due to the problems of digestion and conversion rate, a martial artist who could fight against a Lord-level vicious beast would usually be able to break through in 1 to 3 months after consuming 2 or 3 disaster-level vicious beasts' flesh and blood essence. After consuming 20 to 30 great Lord-level vicious beasts' flesh and blood essence, they would be able to break through in 5 to 10 years. As for the Lord-level vicious beasts' flesh and blood essence, the effect was negligible. If one wanted to break through, whether it was the amount of flesh and blood essence needed or the time spent, it was calculated in hundreds of years. At present, Tsing Hui had killed nearly 10,000 disaster-level vicious beasts, more than 500 annihilation-level vicious beasts, and 39 apocalyptic-level vicious beasts. In a short period of time, it would not be difficult to create 3,000 to 4,000 Lord-level martial artists, 200 to 300 great Lord-level martial artists, and a dozen or so disaster-level martial artists. Disaster-level martial artists are at the third order. Tsing Hui could understand Jiang Kunlun's cautiousness and gratitude. He already had a plan in mind. After returning to the divine wilderness this time, he had to do his best to collect a large number of pills that could strengthen the physique of cultivators. Although body refining was not popular in the divine wilderness, and the soul refining pill was a top pill that could prolong one's life, this did not mean that there were no pills that could allow one to have the physique of a 7th order or even an 8th order for a short period of time. Although the number might be small, as long as he could use his current status as the strongest expert in the divine wilderness to find ways to collect them, he would be able to collect some in the next 10 years. Even if the number was not large, he could prepare more pills and create a large number of 5th and 6th order powerhouses. This would allow humans to last longer in the process of fighting against vicious beasts. Who are the selected people? Tsing Hui looked at the 40 or so people. King Tsing Hui, the people are already here. Please take a look, King Tsing Hui. Jiang Kunlun hurriedly said. As soon as he finished speaking, 30 people stood out from the crowd. These 30 people all had at least the combat power to kill Lord-level ferocious beasts. In other words, their physique was at the first order. Among them, there were 4 experts who could kill disaster-level ferocious beasts. Jiang Xingdao, who was known as the legendary martial saint, was one of them. Among these 30 people, there were different ages. The youngest was only around 20 years old. Although he was only 20 years old, he had a steady and refined aura. He was obviously an expert from the military. In fact, 2 of the 4 Stage 3 powerhouses belonged to the military. Jiang Xingdao was one of them, and the other was the Federation General Feng Qianshan. He was also a famous old general, but because he was older, he was not as young and strong as Jiang Xingdao, so he was not well known. However, according to Tsing Hui's words, the higher the cultivation, the better. The military naturally pulled out this old general who was 1 generation older than Jiang Kunlun and Jiang Xingdao. You are all meritorious officials of our Huaxia region, heroes who fought against the ferocious beasts. However, my ability is limited, and I can't teach all 30 of you at the same time. Therefore, I will observe you in all aspects and choose those who I think are suitable to teach. If I offend you in any way during the process, please forgive me. Tsing Hui said with an indifferent expression. These military bigwigs, martial arts legends, and important people of high status looked at each other and stepped forward at the same time. King Tsing Hui, you can test us as much as you want. Now that you are willing to guide us in our cultivation, it is equivalent to being our mentor. Even if the mentor wants to punish, beat, or scold the students, it is also right and proper. We will not say a word. That's good. You may leave. In the next few days, continue to do what you are supposed to do, as long as you don't leave ancient Jade City. The only thing I can tell you is that from this moment on, the test has begun. Xing Hui said. The 30 cultivators, who could be called top-notch figures anywhere, looked at each other in dismay, but they quickly retreated. King Xing Hui, how are you going to test them? Aren't you going to test their cultivation? Jiang Kunlun was a little puzzled. No need. Xing Hui's test method was obviously different from others' understanding. The soul-refining pill's medicinal efficacy was overbearing, and it could easily create a peak powerhouse who could fight and kill a leader-level beast. Under such circumstances, what he really needed to test was the character, virtue, and loyalty of these people. As for their identity, power, strength, cultivation, and so on, it was not within the scope of his test at all. King Xing Hui, in fact, we came together this time not only to select 30 elites for you to choose, but also to ask a presumptuous request. Currently, it is not only our Huaxia region that is in danger, but also the other regions, especially the Yinhe district and the Zar district, where the feral beasts are wreaking havoc. The Yinhe district is still relatively far away from us, but if there is a problem in the Zar district, those feral beasts will inevitably sweep over and enter our Huaxia region. Moreover, because of the Jade Sea Fortress, most of the people of our Huaxia region are concentrated in the north or south. If a large number of feral beasts really invade from the Zar district, the entire northern part of our Huaxia region will be plunged into an abyss of suffering. Therefore, we would like to ask King Xing Hui to help the Zar district. Great Governor Lv Zhongyuan stood up and said seriously to Xing Hui. After that, he stepped back slightly and bowed respectfully to him along with Jiang Kunlun and Ran Donglai. Zar district, Xing Hui was silent for a moment. Earth was equivalent to his hometown. It was the place where he was born and raised. As a member of Earth's civilization, he naturally did not want to see Earth's civilization destroyed under the ravages of the dire beasts. Although he did not feel anything for the people in the Zar district, the entire Earth Federation was bound to be under tremendous pressure after the second expansion of the space passage. Although the powerhouses he cultivated could help the Earth Federation resist the invading dire beasts sent by the extraterrestrial civilization, it was better for the Earth Federation to be as strong as possible in order to prevent any accidents from happening in the 16 years he spent in the divine wilderness. I've consumed a lot of blood and chi fighting the dire beasts and need to replenish it. I'll rest for a day. After I recover my lost blood and chi, I'll head to the Zar district. Ask the Zar district to hold on for another day. Xing Hui said. Lv Zhongyuan and the others naturally saw that Xing Hui's face was faintly pale. Moreover, with the terrifying record of killing millions of dire beasts, no one had any reason to refuse him when he said that he needed to rest for a day. At that moment, the three of them bowed to Xing Hui again to express their gratitude. I need the flesh and blood essence of the dire beasts. The level doesn't have to be too high. A disaster-level dire beast will do. Xing Hui said. Yes, please rest assured, King Xing Hui. We'll prepare these things immediately and get the best chefs to cook them. Shi Chui stepped forward and accepted the task at the first moment. Warriors were also humans. Once they overexerted themselves, they would need to consume a lot of meat to replenish themselves. Everyone understood this, so they did not hesitate at all when they heard Xing Hui's request. Qing Su nodded and stopped talking to Shi Chui and the others. He did not even accompany the great governor, Lv Zhongyuan, the commander of the army, Jiang Kunlun, and the head of the Fighters Association, Ran Donglai. He directly made his way to the mayor's office. It was already late, but Qing Yiming was still in his office. There were many people in his office discussing something with him, and there were bursts of discussion coming from inside. Xing Hui knew that his father, Qing Yiming, was an extremely responsible person. At this moment, he was entertaining guests, so it was inappropriate for him to barge in. Instead, he sat down outside and waited quietly. However, When this scene fell into the eyes of Shi Chui, who was in charge of trivial matters for him, he was secretly anxious. He quickly stepped forward and said, "King Xinghui, do you want me to go in and talk to City Lord Qing Yuming? You're now a respected person. Every minute and every second is extremely precious. Wasting your time waiting here is really no need. Let's wait." As Xinghui spoke, he began to close his eyes and rest. He relied on his powerful mental power that could cover the entire ancient Jade City to monitor the 30 warriors from the military department, the government, and the warrior association. At the same time, he mobilized the circulatory system in his body to replenish his energy. If he was in the divine wilderness world, where there was rich heaven and earth yuan qi, he could be like an ancient immortal, eating the wind and drinking the dew. He could absorb energy from the heaven and earth yuan qi to replenish his energy and easily recover the loss caused by using the Dian sword qi. However, the civilization on earth was completely in a forbidden magic world. Even if the forbidden magic barrier was activated because of him, it would take at least a few decades or even hundreds of years to completely recover to the point where he could use yuan qi. This was also the reason why he had to consume the essence of the disaster-level dire beasts to replenish his energy. Fortunately, Xinghui and the others did not wait for long before the Secretary-General of Ancient Jade City, Zhang Zhanhong, saw Xinghui and Shi Chui. Seeing the two of them, Zhang Zhanhong hurriedly stepped forward and bowed respectfully. He immediately informed Xinghui. Only then did Shi Chui, who was anxiously waiting, breathe a sigh of relief. "Xinghui, why are you here?" Qing Yuming looked at Xinghui with a strange expression. He was still unable to accept the fact that his son had become an important figure who was on equal footing with Jiang Kunlun, the commander-in-chief of the military, in such a short period of time. "I have something to talk to you about. Father, I need you to take a leave of absence for a period of time. It is tentatively scheduled to be half a month." "No, Ancient Jade City is busy right now. How can I take leave at such a critical time?" Qing Yuming shook his head. Shi Chui hurriedly said, "City Lord Qing, His Excellency the Great Governor has instructed that any order from Dean Xinghui must be completed as the highest political task. Therefore, City Lord Qing, please cooperate. As for your leave of absence, just leave it to me. I will discuss it with City Lord Feng. If you are worried that there is no one to handle the matter at hand, I can immediately arrange for someone to temporarily take over for you. When your matter is done, it will be handed over to you." Secretary Shi, this. Qing Yuming listened, hesitated for a moment, and finally agreed, "Okay, then I'll have to trouble Secretary Shi." After that, he turned to Xinghui, "What is it that needs half a month? Come with me, I'll explain it to you." Xinghui said. Even though Qing Yuming was not a true fighter, so using a soul-refining pill on him was a complete waste. However, Qing Su did not wish for Qing Yuming to be slain by a vicious beast that managed to slip through the net and kill its way into ancient Jade City. As a result, it was imperative for him to consume a soul-refining pill and possess a body as tough as an apocalyptic-level vicious beast. Chapter 733. Xinghui stayed in ancient Jade City for a day before leaving. He mainly spent the day helping Qing Yuming refine the soul-refining pill after he consumed it. If it were not for this matter, he would only need half a day to refine enough ferocious beast's flesh and blood essence to recover his vital energy and blood, and then head to the Tsar's district. After a day's delay, the Tsar's district was already in a precarious situation, and Xinghui finally flew toward the Tsar's district under everyone's gaze. As for the 30 people who were originally in the assessment, he temporarily left them in ancient Jade City. Once he arrived at the Tsar's district, he would definitely have to help the Tsar's forces carry out a massacre, so he would not have enough time to pay attention to their safety. Sometimes, when he needed to release a spiritual storm to kill a group of people, he would have to avoid them to prevent the indiscriminate spiritual storm from engulfing them and destroying their spiritual worlds. Along the way, due to the Huaxia region's greeting and the terrifying combat strength Xinghui displayed in the Mediterranean Sea's spatial passage, everyone in the Tsar's district was looking forward to his arrival. When he flew past the Tsar's district, the Tsar's garrison cheered from the bottom of their hearts at the same time. When he arrived at the temporary defense line outside the two newly added spatial passages, the hundreds of thousands of troops stationed at the defense line let out earth-shattering cheers. The Siberian Spatial Passage. Xing Hui flew past the defense line without stopping for too long. Although there were many soldiers and martial artists at the Siberian defense line who were fiercely fighting against the endless stream of ferocious beasts, he did not pay too much attention to them. Instead, he directly crossed the Siberian defense line and headed in the direction of the spatial passage. Before his spiritual world had fused with the creation divine jade, he was unable to locate the spatial passage based on the traces of spatial interference. He had no choice but to rely on the hornless dragon squad to lead the way. Now, however, his spiritual world seemed to have undergone a change under the subtle influence of the creation divine jade. He had become extremely sensitive to precepts, vitality, and other things. Coupled with the fact that the barrier supported by the divine tree on earth was gradually dissipating and the appearance of precepts, he now had a brand new understanding of spatial fluctuations. After passing through the human resistance zone, he quickly arrived at the deeper regions near the spatial passage. The closer he got to the spatial passage, the more ferocious beasts there were on the way. When Xing Hui was less than 200 kilometers away from the spatial passage, there was almost no place that was not filled with ferocious beasts. Moreover, the quality of the ferocious beasts had increased from the ordinary areas where low-level and mid-level ferocious beasts were the most dangerous areas where high-level and lord-level ferocious beasts were the most dangerous areas. Most ferocious beasts were high-level and lord-level. Apart from a few ferocious beasts such as Jiang Xingdao and a few peak powerhouses who had the combat strength and ferocious beasts, high-level and lord-level. Moreover, high-level ferocious beasts and lord-level ferocious beasts dominated these areas, but it did not mean that there were only high-level and lord-level ferocious beasts. There were also plenty of great lord-level ferocious beasts. Occasionally, one could even see the silhouettes of disaster-level and annihilation-level ferocious beasts. "Let's start clearing the area," Xing Hui said. His figure that was flying through the void slightly lowered. Streaks of blood-red sword aura whizzed out from his body. A flock of hundreds of ferocious beasts in the lower layer of the void was directly crushed by the 49 streaks of blood-red sword aura. They let out shrill cries as they fell to the ground. It was as if a bloody storm was raining down from the void. After killing this flock of ferocious beasts, Xing Hui landed in the dense ferocious beasts below. His figure flew. Wherever he passed, the powerful ferocious beasts were all killed by the Dian sword aura. Not a single ferocious beast was spared. Even the disaster level, annihilation level ferocious beasts that gradually appeared were no exception. Flesh essence. After Xing Hui killed a wave of ferocious beasts, he paused for a while. This was not the Jade Sea stronghold. He did not need to use all his power to kill ferocious beasts in a hurry. Besides killing ferocious beasts, he could refine the flesh essence of the ferocious beasts. Although he could not cook it, and it did not have a good texture, it was enough for him to simply absorb the blood and refine it to replenish himself. Thinking of this, after Xing Hui finished clearing the area, he chose a few annihilation-level ferocious beasts. He slashed out with the deep red sword. A powerful god's soul power penetrated into the annihilation-level ferocious beasts' bodies. He refined the flesh essence and refined the blood contained within to recover. Relying on this method, the consumption of his 49 Dian sword chi was instantly synchronized with the replenishment speed. It was even to the extent that after killing tens of thousands of ferocious beasts, he only needed to refine a portion of their flesh and blood essence to recover to his original state. Even if his killing efficiency was slightly slower, it was able to allow him to maintain his peak state at all times. A day passed by quickly. In this day, Xing Hui could not remember how many ferocious beasts he had killed. The only thing he could be sure of was that the number of ferocious beasts he had killed was definitely more than the 2 million ferocious beasts outside the Jade Sea stronghold. The only problem was that this space tunnel had just been formed and had not been expanded. The strength of the ferocious beasts that emerged from it was not shocking. At most, it was at the same level as the Jade Sea spatial tunnel after it was expanded. In the end, Xinghui only found 6 annihilation-level ferocious beasts. It looks like the invasion of the ferocious beasts by the extraterrestrial civilization is also progressing step by step. Or rather, they are unable to open up the space tunnel too big in one go, allowing the ferocious beasts to enter. Xinghui stood in front of the space tunnel. The space tunnel's diameter was about 39 meters. It was slightly larger than the Jade Sea spatial tunnel, but it was not more than 40 meters. Xinghui carefully sensed the space tunnel's ripples of space tunnel. Compared to the last time, he was much more sensitive to these space tunnel's ripples. He could even use his mutated mind to slightly touch the existence of these invisible ripples. Xinghui tried his best to immerse himself in the rhythm of the space tunnel's ripples. When he felt that it was about time, he brazenly slashed out with the scarlet sword in his hand. The air was compressed, and the power collided. For the first time, ripples appeared in the space tunnel in front of him, as if it was disturbed. However, this kind of interference was too weak. It was as if a pebble had been thrown into a vast lake, and the ripples it created couldn't even affect a small corner of the water surface. Too weak, a trace of helplessness appeared on Xinghui's face. Unless the divine tree's anti-magic barrier completely disappeared and all the laws appeared, perhaps he would have a glimmer of hope to disturb the stability of this space tunnel, or even completely destroy it. Otherwise, he could only watch and sigh. By the time the divine tree's anti-magic barrier completely disappeared, only God knew how many space tunnels on Earth would have expanded and how many would appear. At that time, even if he had the ability to destroy the stability of these space tunnels, it would be like throwing a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. The strength of the ferocious beasts that would continuously appear would be something that even a cultivator with the physique of a 10th-order sacred beast like him would not be able to resist. I still have to place my hopes on the divine wilderness. If my comprehension of the laws of space is higher, and the strength contained in my physique is stronger, and my mental strength reaches a whole new level, I will definitely be able to cause significant disturbance and destruction to the space tunnel. At that time, destroying the space tunnel would no longer be an extravagant hope. Thinking of this, Xinghui did not waste any more time. After solving the problem of the space tunnel, he directly leaped up, and with a deafening sound, whistled towards the horizon. At this time, the guards stationed outside the space tunnel could clearly feel that the number of ferocious beasts was decreasing. When night fell, the number of ferocious beasts attacking their line of defense had been reduced to less than 100, and most of them were ferocious beasts below the Lord rank. Without needing to confirm this change, the higher-ups of the local guards had already guessed that it must be the doing of King Xinghui, who had descended on this space tunnel a day ago. For a moment, the word king suddenly resounded throughout the line of defense. After killing most of the ferocious beasts in this space tunnel, Xinghui did not rush towards the second newly formed space tunnel. He had already understood that although the newly formed space tunnel was a threat that caught everyone off guard, the strength of the ferocious beasts that emerged from the space tunnel was obviously not comparable to the old space tunnels. The only ones that could really break through the Tsar district were the space tunnels that had appeared in the past 13 years. Therefore, without stopping, he directly rushed towards the space tunnel located in the southeast of Ekaterinburg in the Tsar district. At present, the Tsar district had already established a line of defense consisting of 33 fortresses, with this place as the center. They were doing their best to prevent the ferocious beasts from entering this line of defense. However, with the expansion of the space tunnel, the interference range of the space tunnel in Ekaterinburg had directly increased from 1,200 kilometers to 3,000 kilometers. The range was so large that it even affected the border of Uru city in the northwest of the Huaxia region. More than half of the Tsar district was covered by the space tunnel. Due to the interference of the space tunnel, the line of defense that was originally able to stop the ferocious beasts from emerging from Ekaterinburg collapsed after 4 days. Currently, a new line of defense had not been established. With this space tunnel as the center, the human territory could be described as a mess. Sporadic resistance and scenes of corpses could be seen everywhere. The disaster situation was many times worse than the Huaxia region. Rumble. Xing Hui did not stop at the space tunnel defense fortress in Ekaterinburg. He directly rushed towards the interior of the space tunnel as fast as he could. Unlike the space tunnels in other regions, this space tunnel not only had a large number of ferocious beasts on the ground, but even the sky was also filled with ferocious beasts. When Xing Hui flew into the space tunnel, he was obviously attacked by many birds. Among these birds, there were not only calamity, annihilation, and apocalypse grades, but also leader ferocious beasts that were above apocalypse grades. Even Xing Hui had to expend some effort to kill these birds. If they were allowed to fly into the human world, perhaps even a dozen air defense squadron would not be able to successfully kill them. Xing Hui killed his way through the void and finally arrived at the space tunnel. However, just as he was about to start a massacre with the space tunnel as the center and clear out the ferocious beasts, a large building that clearly had the aura of a civilization appeared in front of him. Looking at the building that covered an area of more than 30 kilometers at the end of his vision, Xing Hui's pupils could not help but shrink slightly. An extraterrestrial civilization. At this moment, he finally saw the true appearance of this extraterrestrial civilization. Chapter 734. Xing Hui looked at the altar with a diameter of 30 kilometers. The altar was shrouded in a mysterious and obscure aura. Originally, it was impossible for Xing Hui's sensory ability to sense the existence of this aura, but with the help of the Fortune Jade's transformation of his spiritual world, he could clearly sense the vastness, holiness, majesty, and unfathomability of this mysterious and obscure aura. Under the interference of this aura, the special boundary formed by the power of the divine tree on earth seemed to have been corroded to form a special entrance. Although this entrance was still affected and disturbed by the power of the divine tree, causing its operation to be extremely unstable, it was clear that mysterious and obscure vast power already had the foundation to tear apart the divine tree's boundary and plant a nail in Earth's civilization. TSK. As Xing Hui approached, the birds circling in the void seemed to have sensed Xing Hui's presence and quickly surged over from all directions. They spread their wings and soared, bringing with them a fierce and ruthless aura. There were not many of these birds, less than 100 of them. However, each of them had a terrifying power that was above that of an apocalypse-level dire beast. Among them, a few of the leaders had even reached the level of rank 8 king-level dire beasts, which the Earth civilization called king-level dire beasts. If this kind of king-level bird really rushed into the human world, it was unknown whether the current technological power of the human world could kill it. Let me see what you extraterrestrial creatures are. Xing Hui's expression was cold. He completely ignored the king-level birds that pounced on him. The scarlet sword in his hand slashed out, and a dazzling white light suddenly burst out in the void. The fastest king-level bird was directly killed by his sword. The vibrating sword wave formed by the compressed atmosphere minced the king-level bird's flesh and blood into pieces after killing it, causing the void to seem like it was raining blood. After killing the king-level beast, Xing Hui was not delayed at all. He continued to move forward. None of the beasts in front of him were his match. He easily broke through the perimeter formed by the beasts and killed his way to the large altar with a diameter of 30 kilometers. At this moment, there were a large number of ferocious beasts at the edge of the large altar. These ferocious beasts seemed to be controlled by creatures wrapped in black robes. They were transporting items and building the altar. They seemed to want to make the altar even bigger and attract even more vast, holy, and majestic power to corrode the barrier of the divine tree. Facing Xing Hui's sudden attack, the black-robed creatures controlling the beasts seemed to be a little flustered. One by one, they gave orders, causing the beasts to roar and surround Xing Hui. Unfortunately, although these ferocious beasts were ferocious, they were only king-level ferocious beasts, similar to level 8 ferocious beasts. How could they be a match for Xing Hui, who had the body of a level 10 divine beast? At the moment of the confrontation, several king-level ferocious beasts that pounced on him were smashed into pieces by the sword light from his deep scarlet sword and turned into a bloody mist. Just as he was killing those king-level ferocious beasts, there was a slight ripple in his spiritual world. It seemed that someone was using some kind of occult spirit technique to shake his spiritual world. Unfortunately, according to Tsing Hui's speculation, the strength of these occult spirit techniques was not even comparable to the Xia Empire's master-level psychics. Under such circumstances, they naturally could not do anything to Tsing Hui, whose spiritual level had reached the legendary stage. Not only did the black-robed creatures who attacked with occult spirit techniques not hurt Tsing Hui at all, but they also suffered from the backlash. Some of them could not even stabilize their bodies and fell from the tall bodies of the ferocious beasts they were riding. It was extremely miserable. Whoosh! Tsing Hui flew and soon arrived above the altar. With a glance, he had already noticed more than 20 black-robed creatures. No, it was not black-robed creatures, but humans. These creatures hidden in the black robes were extremely similar to humans. Each of them had a human face, but without exception, they were all extremely handsome and flawless. In terms of style, they were more inclined towards Westerners. Are these extraterrestrial civilizations also a human civilization? Tsing Hui frowned. At this time, the human-like creatures in black robes were shouting, and each of them had a look of horror on their faces. Tsing Hui did not know much about their language, but when the Xia Empire's psychic masters conquered the indigenous planets, they had obviously found a solution to the language barrier, and that was spiritual link. Intelligent creatures may not speak the same language, but as long as there was a spiritual link and spiritual communication, they would naturally be able to understand each other's meaning. After capturing a black-robed man, Tsing Hui directly penetrated the spiritual link into the black-robed man's spiritual world. This black-robed man's physique was weak, only at the level of a rank 4 creature, but his spiritual strength was very strong, enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with those Golden Elixir realm warriors, and some were even comparable to powerful beings. Moreover, there was a mysterious force surrounding their bodies, which seemed to be quite extraordinary. Unfortunately, the Earth civilization had an enchantment supported by the sacred tree. Although they relied on their vast, holy, majestic, and great willpower to corrode a part of the enchantment power of the sacred tree, it was still wishful thinking to operate and use the mysterious energy in their bodies. In other words, they were at best rank 4 warriors and rank 8 or 9 psychic ability users. How could a psychic ability user of this level resist the spiritual link of a legendary psychic ability user? Even when Tsing Hui penetrated the black-robed man's spiritual link into his body, he did not know that his consciousness could already be captured by him. This world actually has a human who has reached the level of a higher rank 10 creature. How is it possible? The power of this world is severely sealed, it's impossible for such a powerhouse to be born. Even if the world sensed the danger and did its best to hasten the birth of the child of the world, it's impossible for him to grow to such a level in just a dozen years. The black-robed man screamed in horror, and there was deep fear in his eyes. This seal is unbelievably strong. It's much stronger than what we sensed from the outside world. Even the will of the great master of gods can't completely descend into this world. This can't be the legendary source world that those big shots have been searching for all this time, right? Damn it, we can't sense the existence of the Pantheon and can't use the power of the Pantheon to cast spells. We can't use even a fraction of our strength, otherwise, we can completely suppress a higher rank 10 creature. It's useless, the seal of this world is too strong, we can't cast spells in this world at all. I knew it, Casso and the others didn't have good intentions when they let us enter this world that hasn't been explored clearly. He's going to get us all killed this time. Many black-robed men controlled their beasts and looked at Tsing Hui as if they were facing a great enemy, their expressions extremely nervous. At this moment, they clearly didn't know that Tsing Hui had directly read the meaning of their words through their minds. Master of Gods, Pantheon. What's that? Where did you come from? Tsing Hui listened for a moment, and when he felt that he couldn't find any useful clues, he simply transmitted his question through his consciousness. Feeling the terrifying waves set off by Tsing Hui's consciousness, the black-robed men's expressions changed greatly. This kind of mental power. Starry Wizard, this is the mental power of a starry wizard. And, he's only a step away from becoming a legendary wizard. My God, How can there be a native who can cultivate to the level of a starry wizard in this world? It's over, we're finished. Casso, you actually sent us to our deaths, we Liberty Wings will never let you off. Mournful screams immediately sounded from these black-robed men after sensing Tsing Hui's mental power that was so strong that it was simply not something they could resist. Wizard? Starry wizard? Hearing these people's screams, Tsing Hui's pupils shrank slightly. Tsing Hui had heard of this cultivation system before. In the battle records of the War of Chaos, such a civilization was mentioned many times. This civilization was divided into two types. One was those who believed in gods and gave everything they had to the gods, while the other was those who established their own roots, polished their magic power, and studied spells. These people in front of him, obviously, they came from this wizard civilization. If he didn't guess wrong, these fierce beasts were simply creatures that they had summoned from alternate dimensions. For summoners, they could have as many of these creatures as they wanted, and they could choose from one world after another. No wonder these beasts can't be killed. Tsing Hui's gaze once again fell on these black-robed wizards, who were filled with fear. His powerful mental power blasted into their spiritual world with an unstoppable force. All of you, shut up. However, he was obviously not a mental power master who toyed with mental power, nor was he a wizard who studied mental power. Although he had extremely powerful mental power, it was simply difficult to control, so, he clearly only wanted to use his powerful mental power to intimidate these black-robed wizards, but in the end, he was careless and did not control his strength well, and directly shocked 8 of them to death. Their spiritual world collapsed with a bang. This was a little awkward, however, the effect was very obvious. These black-robed wizards obviously treated his actions as an example to others. The black-robed wizards who were originally wailing in fear suddenly trembled with fear, and each of them kept quiet out of fear under Tsing Hui's gaze, and no longer dared to shout carelessly. Now, I need you to answer my questions. There are 16 of you left. I will divide you into 4 groups of 4, and interrogate you one by one. Where did you come from, what kind of power is behind you, and how strong you are? I will directly communicate with you through mental power. If you lie, your mental waves will easily be erroneous, and naturally, I will be able to detect it. If I find out that any of your answers are wrong, or your answers are different from the answers of the other 3, your entire group will be buried with you. After Qing Su said that, he glanced at the roaring ferocious beasts in the surroundings and called out, "Get these ferocious beasts to back off first. You should know that I can kill as many ferocious beasts as there are." Yes. The black-robed wizards were all trembling with fear, and quickly let the beasts retreat tens of kilometers away. All right, the 4 of you will form a group. I will start with the 4 of you. As Tsing Hui spoke, he first circled the 4 of them, and directly used his mental waves to interrogate them. Chapter 735. Your origins, forces, and the strength of the forces that are currently attacking our Earth civilization. Tsing Hui shouted in a deep voice. We come from the great Aikisi divine kingdom. Behind us is the great true god Aikisi. We belong to the 26th Legion under Divine General Karel. The peripheral members of the 13th Brigade and the 18th Squadron formed a mercenary group called the Wings of Liberty. We are all ordinary mercenaries in the mercenary group and are usually only responsible for cleaning up the interior of some small worlds. True God Aikisi. Tsing Hui had come into contact with the wizard civilization, but the battlefield of the wizard civilization in the War of Chaos was often very ordinary. There were no tyrannical existences such as true gods. Usually, level 9 and level 10 wizards were equivalent to peak existences, enough to dominate a state or rule a country. After pondering for a moment, he could only ask, how is a true god compared to a true immortal? Your Earth civilization is the seat of an immortal civilization. No. You don't have any traces of an immortal civilization. The black-robed man's eyes widened when he heard Tsing Hui mention true immortals, but he denied his guess after a moment. What seat of an immortal civilization? Explain in detail. Tsing Hui said sternly, and the spiritual pressure emanating from his body also became heavier. Yes, yes, yes. Sir, please calm down, please calm down. The black-robed man trembled in fear and hurriedly said, the great true gods and the true immortals of the immortal civilization are similar. Under normal circumstances, our great true gods are naturally more powerful, but the true immortals of the immortal civilization have refined some mystical items called magic treasures that can sometimes suppress the great true gods. As for the immortal civilization, there are many, but they have been hunted down by powerhouses all over and dare not show themselves in the world. The price of the coordinates of the immortal civilization in the pantheon is extremely high. Even our Ikisi divine kingdom will be rewarded handsomely if we can provide the coordinates of an immortal civilization. It is not an extravagant hope to be given a noble title and rule a continent or a world. The immortal civilization does not show itself in the world. Xing Hui frowned slightly when he heard this. He did not expect the immortal civilization to be so weak in the environment of the forest of the universe. Then, he would have to be more careful after switching to the path of a sword immortal. Why are you attacking our civilization? We're just following orders. Many years ago, there was a rumor circulating in the pantheon that there's a source world in this galaxy. Oh, source world is what we call it, but it's actually the origin of immortal civilization. It's said that a long time ago, the great Lord of Gods, the Lord of Time, the Lord of Chaos, and other supreme beings once fought over this galaxy. In the end, the Lord of Time won and occupied this galaxy. However, because the Supreme Lord of Chaos and the Lord of Gods were unwilling to admit defeat, they would occasionally send people to infiltrate this galaxy to see if they could find the source world. That's why we're here. Master of Chaos. Upon hearing the black-robed mage mention this title, Xing Hui's breathing paused for a moment. The Lord of Chaos who has nurtured a large number of sons of chaos. The black-robed mage looked at Xing Hui in astonishment. Judging from the fluctuations emitted from his spiritual world, it was clear that Xing Hui had guessed correctly. The Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Gods, the Lord of Time. If there's a chaos temple in the territory under the Lord of Chaos, then the pantheon is the place where your Lord of Gods bestows power? Yes. The black-robed mage replied with some reverence. When Xing Hui mentioned the Lord of Chaos' name, he no longer dared to fool him. The pantheon will select sons of gods, and each son of God will only need to submit enough divine essence to raise their divine level. Every time they raise their level, the great Lord of Gods will bestow a divine art. Oh, divine essence is equivalent to the Tao essence under the Lord of Chaos, and the Lord of Time's pantheon. It's said that apart from the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Gods, and the Lord of Time, there are many other great beings who also project their power into this void to collect divine essence. However, because these great beings were defeated and banished by the Supreme Lord of Gods, the Lord of Time, and the Lord of Chaos, they were unable to establish the Chaos Temple, Pantheon Temple, or Temple of Time to bestow power to the chosen ones. The seeds nurtured by such beings are often called demons and evil gods in our pantheon. Very well, I hope you're not lying to me. I wouldn't dare to lie to you, my lord. In fact, the people of the Divine Kingdom who live peacefully in the core of the pantheon might not know what the Lord of Chaos and the Lord of Time are, but any forces who want to come to this chaotic and warring area would know about it. My lord, you can ask around a little and you'll find out. Especially the power of the Lord of Time, we have to understand it clearly. Otherwise, if we encounter the Lord of Time's troops, we'll be caught off guard and die without even knowing how we died. Xing Hui looked at the black-robed mage and vaguely understood something. The civilization of Earth was obviously in the warring area, and there were legends of the source world in this area. Many top figures wanted to come here to try their luck and see if they could find the source world. They would then offer this world to the great Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Time, and the Lord of Gods for rewards. However, from the black-robed mage's words, he could guess that often, only those who were not doing well, or even large forces who could not survive in this area would come to this warring area and risk everything. It was like those smugglers who shuttled between the borders of two countries. They knew it was dangerous, but because they could not survive in the local area, they had no choice but to take the risk and try to make a fortune. This territory belongs to the Lord of Time. Then, what is the mystery of the Lord of Time? What kind of means did he give to the children of time? The black-robed mage carefully glanced behind Xing Hui and hesitated for a moment before saying, in fact, the civilization of Earth that you gave birth to, my lord, is walking the path of the Lord of Time. Xing Hui's heart skipped a beat and he blurted out, technology. Technology? It should be the unconventional way to develop oneself toward the limits of matter. It is said that the final form of the Lord of Time is to transform himself into a great substance called eternity, so that he is indestructible and indestructible. As for the power that the Lord of Time gave them, I don't know. I only know that it can greatly improve their computing power. Xing Hui looked at the black-robed mage in front of him. At present, judging from the black-robed mage's mental fluctuations, what he said was basically normal and should not be lying. Of course, if his mental fluctuations were so obscure that they could avoid Xing Hui's perception, then there was nothing he could do. So, how many people have their eyes on our civilization of Earth now? This small world. Oh, in the territory of the Lord of Time, this small world is called a star. The star you are on does not have any invasion value, but because it is in this area where there are rumors of the source world, and this star has obviously been hidden by some powerful people with special means, it aroused the curiosity of Captain Sauron, and thus launched an exploration plan on this star. Captain. What is the cultivation level of your captain? Captain Sauron is a powerful legendary mage. A legendary mage. Xing Hui's understanding of the mage cultivation system was limited to level 1 to 10 mages, and above that were great mages and domain mages. As for levels beyond that, he did not know. Fortunately, there was no need for him to ask, as the black-robed mage in front of him took the initiative to speak. Our cultivation system is actually similar to the cultivation system of the Immortal Path civilization, and basically corresponds to each other. True gods correspond to true immortals of the Immortal Path civilization, demigods correspond to false immortals of the Immortal Path civilization, and below that are sacred mages, legendary mages, and celestial mages like you, my lord. Below that are domain mages, great mages, and a series of other titles. My lord, the planet you are on has a special boundary, and if the magical fluctuations on your body are too strong, it will affect the stability of the spatial passageway, causing a mistake in teleportation into spatial turbulence. Therefore, Captain Casso, who is in charge of paving the way, can only let us peripheral mages open the way, and wait for the altar to be built and the boundary layer to be weakened as soon as possible before we can descend on this world. Planet, according to what you said, a legendary mage should not have the ability to open spatial passageways. How do you explain these spatial passageways behind you? Xing Hui asked coldly. Under normal circumstances, legendary mages do not have the ability to open spatial passageways. Only sacred mages who are proficient in space, or even demigods, have the hope of opening spatial passageways. However, we have a divine artifact that specializes in opening spatial passageways, which is why legendary mages have the ability to open spatial passageways, a divine artifact that specializes in opening spatial passageways. Xing Hui frowned slightly when he heard this. The possibility of this was very high. After all, these mages were backed by an invincible champion who could create a world with a thought. For an invincible being who could create a world with a thought, opening spatial passageways was not difficult at all. Moreover, the champion who could create a world with a thought behind these mages had come to this battlefield where the three supreme beings were fighting for a windfall, and would naturally have made ample preparations. How many champions do you have on your side waiting to invade our Earth civilization? Currently, only Captain Sauron has his eyes on this planet. However, because Earth's civilization is too insignificant, and a world with a diameter of more than 10,000 kilometers is not worth the effort of mobilizing so many people, Lord Sauron did not report this matter. He did not even pay too much attention to it, and only left it to Lord Casso to explore. Lord Sauron has a total of 14 squadrons, and Captain Casso is only one of them. The squadron's captains and vice-captains all have the ability of celestial mages, and so does Captain Casso. Depending on the strength of the squadrons, there can be 5 to 20 squadrons. The squadron's captains usually have the ability of domain mages, while the vice-captains fluctuate between domain mages and great mages. Sing Hui's gaze fell on the black-robed mage. Since Kasso's squadrons have this kind of ability, why did he let you enter our Earth civilization? The black-robed mage smiled bitterly and said, "We are mercenaries of Liberty Wings." Although Liberty Wings is not a powerful mercenary organization, several of our captains have the ability of domain mages and great mages. Like us, we are just the most ordinary members used to explore. Even if there is danger, Kasso and the others will not feel the slightest bit of heartache. Hearing the black-robed mage's words, Sing Hui vaguely had a general understanding of the enemies who were eyeing them covetously. "Alright, I'll ask the others next. If I find that the words of others are different from yours, then don't blame me for being ruthless." After Sing Hui finished speaking, he withdrew his gaze from the black-robed mage and turned to the others, beginning to verify one by one. Chapter 736. Sing Hui spent an entire day asking these black-robed sorcerers one by one and finally found that the black-robed sorcerer was not lying. Outside the enchantment that was propped up by the divine tree, there was indeed a powerful force eyeing the Earth civilization. Although he did not know whether the Earth civilization was the source world that these people were talking about, he could be sure of one thing. Once these people had invested a lot of energy in the Earth civilization but only reaped little in return, they would definitely not let the Earth civilization go easily in their fury. In addition, according to these sorcerers, the Immortal Path civilization was also organized as a force similar to the evil gods. Once they were discovered and reported to the higher-ups to destroy them, they would definitely be rewarded handsomely. And yet, there was obviously an unclear relationship between the Earth civilization and the Immortal Path civilization. For example, the Mount Shu Grotto Heaven and the Kunlun Grotto Heaven were obviously left behind by the powerhouses of the Immortal Path civilization. Moreover, the true strength of the powerhouses of the Immortal Path civilization who left behind these two Grotto Heavens was definitely above the true god Ikes mentioned by the black-robed sorcerers and the others. After all, a true god was only comparable to a true immortal or a powerhouse who could create a world with a single thought. After a powerhouse who could create a world with a single thought fell, their world would at most last for a few decades or 100 years before collapsing. However, the Mount Shu Grotto Heaven and the Kunlun Grotto Heaven had existed for at least 3,000 years. This was the best proof. Based on this point, when Zoro and the others from the Ike's divine kingdom entered the Earth civilization would definitely not have a good ending. Kasso, Zoro, and the Legion commander and divine general Karel behind them. Sing Hui had already deduced the strength of these people based on their words. Kasso was at the Void Transformation Realm, Zoro was at the Vacuum Shattering Realm, and the Legion commander was probably equivalent to a powerhouse who had cultivated the divine true body. As for Divine General Karel, he had reached the omnipotent realm who could tear the void and roam freely in the void. Fortunately, with the enchantment of the divine tree, the Earth world would only emit a fluctuation when he was teleporting. Only then would they be able to follow this trace and send dozens of teams to try their luck and see if they could enter the Earth world. And this time, among the dozens of teams, only this group of people had successfully entered Earth's civilization. From the looks of it, my previous plan to transform the Earth civilization into a cultivator civilization was a little too simple. The star region where the Earth civilization is located is the territory of the Lord of Time. The most suitable path to take is the path of science and technology. Only by using the path of science and technology to cover up the traces of the Immortal Path civilization on the Earth civilization can the Earth civilization safely survive in this starry sky after losing the protection of the divine tree enchantment. Sing Hui could not help but think of the Xiaya Empire that he had gone to because of the War of Chaos. If he didn't guess wrong, the technologically advanced Xiaya Empire should also belong to the Time King's territory. Looks like I have to consider letting Earth civilization develop along the path of the Xiaya Empire and speed up the progress of science and technology. When Sing Hui returned from the Xiaya Empire, he also brought back his personal terminal. In addition to many secret spirit techniques, the personal terminal also contained the methods to build mechas and even low-level battleships. Due to the memory of his saint-level spirit ability user and the Scarlet Sun demon god that he had used at that time, his memory of the manufacturing of the holy mecha was deeply engraved in his mind. Even if the personal terminal could not be transferred out of the personal space, he could still restore most of the manufacturing method of the Holy Mecca to its original state. In other words, as long as technology and industry allowed, he could create a mecha with combat power comparable to a golden elixir realm cultivator, which was a level 10 dire beast. Of course, the so-called level 10 mecha was just an idealized figure. To pilot a level 10 holy mecha and exert combat power not inferior to a level 10 dire beast, one must at least reach the level of a level 9 spirit ability user. At present, the highest spirit level Xing Hui had seen in the Earth Federation was the veteran Feng Qianshan. His spirit level was about the level of a level 6 spirit ability user, and it was obviously too early for him to pilot a holy mecha. Sweeping his gaze over the 16 black-robed sorcerers who had survived, Xing Hui weighed the pros and cons. He did not kill these people. Instead, he relied on his powerful spirit power as a saint-level spirit master to forcibly seal their spiritual worlds. As for the method of sealing, it was far from being as high-end as sealing. It was completely relying on his powerful spirit power to severely injure them. Due to his poor control of his spirit power, he killed another 3 of the 16 black-robed sorcerers when he used his spirit power to severely injure their spiritual worlds. This made the 13 black-robed sorcerers who had survived want to cry but have no tears. Leading these 13 people, Xing Hui quickly walked outside. Although these 13 people were sorcerers, each of them also had a level 3 or level 4 physique. Their speed was not slow. After spending nearly 10 hours, they finally walked out of the area affected by the spatial passage and appeared at the defensive line of the 33 fortresses of Katerinburg in the Tsar's district. As Xing Hui had been on a killing spree at the edge of the spatial passage for an entire day, the number of ferocious beasts rushing out of the spatial passage was significantly reduced. The 33 fortresses outside Katerinburg finally resisted the attack of the ferocious beasts and re-established a reconnaissance system. As a result, before Xing Hui had time to enter these fortresses, there were already war chariots carrying tall soldiers of the Tsar's district who came out to greet him. King Xing Hui, Federation General Yuri Sergei Ivanov salutes you. Thank you for your help to our Katerinburg defensive line. The hundreds of millions of people in the Tsar's district will always remember your kindness in our hearts. On the war chariot, a man with the rank of general came to Xing Hui and bowed to express his gratitude carefully. General Yuri. Xing Hui nodded to the man in front of him and said at the same time, I've killed more than half of the ferocious beasts in this spatial passage, but there's something that needs to be decided by gathering all the higher-ups of the Earth Federation. Gather all the higher-ups of the Earth Federation? General Yuri was slightly startled. Then, his gaze fell on the 13 black-robed mages behind him. Their faces were pale because of the severe mental damage. Although these people had some similarities with the Western people, their hair colors were all strange. Not only were there gold, black, and brown, but there were also blue, purple, and other miscellaneous colors. There's no harm in giving you some advice. These people are the invaders of the extraterrestrial civilization. The invaders of the extraterrestrial civilization have already appeared. You should understand the seriousness of the problem. Xing Hui noticed Yuri's gaze and said in a calm tone. Although his tone did not fluctuate much, in Yuri's ears, it was no less than earth-shattering. Invaders of the extraterrestrial civilization. Yuri stared at the 13 black-robed mages in front of him. For a moment, he felt his breathing stagnate. After a while, he suddenly came back to his senses and hurriedly said, King Xing Hui, I'll gather all the higher-ups of the Earth Federation. These people, Qing Su knew what he wanted to say, so he said with composure, don't worry. These people are just the ordinary vanguard soldiers of the extraterrestrial civilization. I'll be responsible for keeping an eye on them and making sure they don't run amok. Just do it quickly. Yes, I'll go now. General Yuri said and summoned his guard. He asked him to take Xing Hui to the fortress to rest. As for himself, he personally went to the contact point to contact the other members of the Earth Federation Parliament. This was the first time the invaders of the extraterrestrial civilization had appeared and were captured by King Xing Hui. This news must be spread to the entire Earth Federation as soon as possible so that the higher-ups of the Earth Federation Parliament could come up with a plan for the next step. The next half of the day was calm. Of course, this calmness was only for Tsing-Hui. In fact, the entire Earth Federation had already been stirred up by the capture of these invaders by Tsing-Hui. The higher-ups of the various regions of the Earth Federation immediately gathered their own expert teams and took the top transport aircraft with the fastest speed to the fortress of the Katarina line of defense under the escort of fighter jets. In less than 10 hours, more than half of the hundreds of members of the Earth Federation Supreme Parliament had arrived. Among them, LV Zhongyuan, Ran Donglai, and Jiang Kunlun of the Huaxia region's higher-ups were all present. Some other higher-ups of the Huaxia region also came with them. When these higher-ups of the various regions arrived, they immediately sent expert teams to jointly interrogate the black-robed mages of the extraterrestrial civilization. After another night of interrogation, the higher-ups of the Earth Federation finally had a clear understanding of the current situation they were facing. When they learned that these ferocious beasts were not even official soldiers of the enemy and were simply cannon fodder summoned by the enemy through a special method, all of them became anxious. They immediately invited Tsing-Hui to express his opinion on the current crisis that the Earth civilization was facing. Tsing-Hui stood at the main seat in the conference room and looked at the people in the conference room. There were more than 600 people in the conference room. Of course, these 600 people were not all members of the Supreme Parliament. Even so, each of them still had a near-supreme status in their respective regions. Any word they said could be treated as an imperial edict. Thousands of people would study, understand, and figure it out. It seems that you've already figured out our current situation. Tsing-Hui's tone was also a little dignified. Those invaders of the extraterrestrial civilization captured the fluctuations of our Earth civilization to activate the space artifact that can cut open the outer boundary of our Earth civilization and expand the space channel. The fluctuations emitted by our Earth civilization are directly related to the mysterious boundary that shrouds the Earth. Every time the mysterious boundary runs for a cycle, it will run again. At the moment when it runs again, there will be energy fluctuations escaping. When this energy fluctuation is captured, the space channel will expand again. More invaders and more powerful ferocious beasts will invade our Earth civilization. According to the scientists' calculations, the energy of the mysterious boundary will be reactivated 38 years later. Chapter 737. 38 years. Do we only have 38 years left? The enemy's platoon leader is said to have reached Tier 14, and the platoon leader has reached the level of a Tier 15 dire beast. It is said that they are so powerful that they can destroy a planet with a single blow. How can our civilization resist them? What should we do? King Tsing-Hui, is there any way for our civilization to save ourselves? You are the only Tier 8 powerhouse of our civilization. No, you are a Tier 10 powerhouse. You are the hope of our civilization. That's right, King of the Green Ruins. What should we do next? Please give us your instructions, King Tsing-Hui. In another 38 years, our civilization will face a crisis of life and death. Only if everyone is united will there be a glimmer of hope to turn the situation around. As soon as Tsing-Hui finished speaking, the many members of the Supreme Council who had become worried after learning the truth could no longer sit still and voiced their opinions. Tsing-Hui glanced at Antonio, the chairman of the Northern America region, who said that he was a Tier 10 powerhouse. He knew that if he handed the black-robed mages over to these people, not only would these people learn more about the mage civilization, they would also learn more about him. The fact that they were able to tell him that his true power level wasn't that of an apocalypse level or a challenger level, but that he was a level 10 life form was the best proof of this. Silence. Hearing the discussions below, Tsing-Hui gestured with his hand. Immediately, many of the important figures in the hearts of the people in the conference room stopped talking at the same time and looked at Tsing-Hui. For this matter, I already have a solution. If we humans want to rely on force to catch up and have the ability to stand shoulder to shoulder with the dire beasts, it will only be a pipe dream. Therefore, we can only work on what we are good at and constantly enrich ourselves. Finally, we can achieve the ability to compete with these extraterrestrial civilizations. At present, although the Earth Federation government has been established, in fact, the cooperation between the various sectors is still not very close. Right now, you already know what kind of enemy we are facing, so I hope that all the countries can cooperate wholeheartedly to let our Earth civilization survive the current crisis. And this is the cooperation I'm talking about. As Tsing Hui spoke, he took out a document. This document was the result of his hard work in the past 20 hours. After making 9 copies, he gestured to his assistant to hand these 9 documents to the 9 chairmen. The 9 chairmen of the Supreme Council basically belonged to the hawkish faction of the military, so they were quite familiar with technological weapons. When they skimmed through the information Ching Su had passed over, they could not help but widen their eyes. This is mech. Mech manufacturing technology. Mech? Are we going to make mechs to fight these monsters? With spatial interference, the equipment in the mech will also be affected. Hearing one of the chairmen could not suppress the exclamation of surprise, whispers immediately among the crowd. Ordinary electronic products may be disturbed by the fluctuations emitted by the spatial channel, but this type of mech uses neural connection technology, which emphasizes the integration of man and machine. The spatial channel emitted by the spatial channel will interfere with the operation of the mech, but it will definitely not be significant. We only need to take targeted precautions, and we will be able to create mechs that can perform neural connection and resist the interference of spatial fluctuations. As Tsing Hui spoke, he stretched out his hand and spread his 5 fingers. We don't need too many, just 5 of these mechs. I believe that the Earth Federation will be able to resist the next round of invasion by the Mage civilization. These mechs. Are they really as recorded in the document, King Tsing Hui, that they have the combat power not inferior to a 10th order creature? Chairman Charlie, who was the fastest to look through the document, looked at Tsing Hui and asked. The mechs can indeed exert the combat power of a 10th order creature, but your ability and the current level of technology on Earth are not enough to truly create a holy knight. Therefore, even if these mechs are completed, in the end, you will only be able to fight against a 9th order or even 8th order creature at best. Tsing Hui spoke the truth. The technology involved in these mechs. We need to study it carefully. Even if you have provided us with detailed data, King Tsing Hui, we may not be able to successfully create one in the next 10 years. One of the chairmen who had some understanding of scientific research showed a wry smile. The technology involved in these documents was too advanced. If you can't make it, then think of ways to research it. After thoroughly studying the manufacturing method of this divine mech, I need you to use this mech technology in all aspects to completely improve the technological level of Earth's civilization, so that Earth's civilization can change in the direction of technology as much as possible. You must have learned from those black-robed sorcerers that the star field we are in is actually in the territory of a great creature called the Time Lord, and this Time Lord is walking the path of technology. Earth's civilization can only go in this direction, and when it comes into contact with other civilizations in the future, it won't be excluded and treated as an alien. Tsing Hui said. Time Lord. Those black-robed mages said that the Time Lord radiated his power tens of trillions of light years. Is this true? Is there really a creature that can cultivate to such a level? One of the chairmen asked in disbelief. The distance of 1 light year was like an insurmountable moat for the current human civilization, but now, according to the black-robed mage, the Time Lord's power could radiate tens of trillions of light years. This was simply beyond the limits of their imagination. Time Lord, Tsing Hui was silent for a moment. He vaguely guessed that the Time Lord, the Master of Gods, and the Lord of Chaos should be the greatest and most powerful existence in the infinite starry sky. This could be judged from the tip of the iceberg of the power displayed by the Lord of Chaos. If the Lord of Chaos was like this, then, the Master of Gods and the Time Lord, who were equally famous as him, would not be much worse. There must be countless worlds like the divine wilderness under their jurisdiction. However, an existence like the Time Lord is too far away from us. I'm afraid that even Sauron's group, who is about to bring us disaster, and even the supreme true god Axon behind Sauron, are like ants in front of the Time Lord. Therefore, don't ask too much, don't think too much, and think of a way to solve the crisis that our civilization is facing first. Tsing Hui's words naturally made the 9 chairmen nod in agreement. Several chairmen looked at each other and secretly discussed for a while. In the end, it was Chairman Jiang Kunlun, who had the best relationship with Tsing Hui, who came forward and pleaded, "King Tsing Hui, according to what we learned from the interrogation of those black-robed mages, the Time Lord has radiated his power to every corner of his jurisdiction and has built the Temple of Time in places where life has settled down. Anyone who is lucky enough to enter the Temple of Time can become a child of time. Once a child of time becomes a child of time, even if it is only the lowest level child of time, can borrow part of the great Time Lord's computing power. This part of computing power is not even comparable to a cell of the Time Lord, but if an ordinary person uses it, it is equivalent to having the latest optical computer. With the assistance of this part of computing power, any research can progress by leaps and bounds." The computing power of the Time Lord. Tsing Hui heard from those black-robed mages that the Lord of Chaos had given the children of Chaos various characteristics, the Lord of Gods had given the children of God under him many divine spells, and the Lord of Time allowed the children of Time under him to borrow part of his computing power. At that time, he did not think too much about it, but now it seemed, perhaps he could really plot something. But soon, he thought of something and shook his head to refuse. "There is one thing that you don't know. There is a special enchantment in the Earth civilization, and the power of the Time Lord seems to be unable to penetrate it. So let's not talk about whether you can become a child of time. Even if you become a child of time, you can't borrow the power of the Time Lord here. Therefore, the research of this mech can only rely on you." After Tsing Hui finished speaking, he once again took out a book of mental cultivation methods. This is the 9 chapters of the Forging Spirit technique. Cultivating it can enhance your mental power, so that you won't be defeated by your opponent on the mental level even though you have a powerful mech. "Thank you, King Tsing Hui, for your gift." When everyone saw that Tsing Hui had taken out such a precious mental cultivation method, they all stood up one by one and bowed solemnly. "Although I know that you must promote this 9 chapters of the Forging Spirit technique in the military to maintain the stability of society, the situation is different now. Earth civilization is facing a crisis, and we need the strength of everyone. Therefore, you might as well release the 9 chapters of the Forging Spirit technique one by one and establish a mental ability user association at the same time. On the one hand, you can prevent those with strong mental power from causing trouble. On the other hand, you can also unearth geniuses who cultivate mental power and focus on nurturing them. Don't worry, King Tsing Hui. We will definitely discuss a safe method and hand it over to King Tsing Hui for review." A few of the chairmen immediately expressed their stance. Tsing Hui nodded. The reason why he took out the 9 chapters of the Forging Spirit technique and not other mental cultivation methods was mainly because this mental cultivation method was more neutral and peaceful. There would not be any major problems. For the Earth civilization that had just embarked on the mental cultivation system and had no experience to learn from, this mental cultivation method was obviously the most suitable. However, after taking out the 9 chapters of the Forging Spirit technique, he seemed to have thought of something. Once again, he took out the Galactic Funeral Oration. Not only could the cultivation of the Starseed funeral rites strengthen the mind, it could also strengthen the body. Even though the effects were weak and unsatisfactory, that was only for Qing Su. If everyone on Earth practiced the Starseed funeral rites, the effects might not be apparent in a short period of time, but in a few decades, it would be no problem for them to strengthen their bodies to the level of martial arts masters that represented the limits of mortals, or even martial saints. Chapter 738. The Galactic Funeral Rites, the 9-chapter Forging Spirit Technique, and the Mech Manufacturing Technique. No matter how similar these 3 pieces of information were, they could bring about subversive changes to the current structure of Earth's civilization. If Tsing Hui kept any of them to himself or taught them to a small number of people, he could immediately create a behemoth that could overturn the current Earth Federation. However, Tsing Hui did not hesitate to contribute these 3 pieces of information to the Earth Federation. In addition, they had learned about their true enemy through the interrogation of the black-robed mages. For a time, the big shots in the Earth Federation who faintly felt that Xing Hui might be entangled with an extraterrestrial civilization felt extremely guilty. When Xing Hui rested for a day and planned to return to Guyu City, dozens of big shots who represented the pinnacle of power in the Earth Federation personally came to see him off. King Xing Hui, you will always be the most welcome and most distinguished guest of our Beimei region. We will specially open a manor for you in the Beimei region. You can come and stay at any time. It's all thanks to King Xing Hui that we can see the hope of solving the crisis. Oh, I shouldn't call you King Xing Hui now, but Venerable Xing Hui. We will always remember Venerable Xing Hui's contributions to the Earth Federation and the entire Earth civilization. All of your deeds will be recorded in the annals of history for countless future generations to learn from and revere. Venerable Xing Hui, we will immediately hold a meeting when we return and invite Venerable Xing Hui to become the honorary chairman of the Supreme Council of the Earth Federation. Your contributions and deeds are more than enough to bear this responsibility. The chairman and deputy chairman from various major regions spoke with smiles on their faces in front of Xing Hui. If they did not know that Xing Hui would not leave the Huaxia region for other regions, they would even be willing to pay any price to get Xing Hui to settle down there. You don't have to thank me. You just need to promote the many secret techniques I have given you as soon as possible. At the same time, set up a global research institute and do your best to create mechs that we can use as soon as possible. Only then will Earth's civilization have a chance to survive the current crisis. Xing Hui said. Don't worry, Venerable Xing Hui. We will keep your words in mind. Not long ago, we began to gather people from all over the place to prepare to set up a research institute. We have chosen the location of this research institute in the Huaxia region and it is less than 600 kilometers from Guyu City where you live. Chairman Charade stepped forward and said. Oh. Xing Hui estimated the Huaxia region was probably the Pearl River Delta. He nodded immediately. He said, I will wait and see your results. I won't disappoint you, Venerable Qing Su. Xing Hui nodded. Hui turned charade, but just as he was about to leave, he seemed to have sensed something and suddenly looked into the distance. As he planned to leave directly, he was actually on a helipad of the fortress. The terrain was relatively high. Looking down from here, not only could he see the heavily guarded command fort, but he could also see the many soldiers stationed outside the fortress. Just a moment ago, he suddenly felt a gaze with strong emotions focused on him. This gaze was different from the reverence and worship of ordinary soldiers. The message revealed in it was faintly familiar. However, when he looked in that direction, he only saw a group of soldiers and mercenaries fighting with each other. Venerable Xing Hui, what's the matter? Is there a problem? Jiang Kunlun, who was beside him, immediately noticed his abnormality and quickly asked. Nothing. Xing Hui replied and swept his mental energy in that direction. However, due to his limited control over his mental energy, he could only vaguely determine that there was no one he was familiar with among those people. In addition, with so many people from the Supreme Council accompanying him, he was about to leave. After not noticing any familiar faces, he withdrew his gaze and turned to Jiang Kunlun again. I'll leave first and see if I can find a way to repair the mysterious boundary of the Earth civilization. If the boundary can really be repaired, the safety of our Earth civilization will undoubtedly increase by a lot. We understand. What we're doing is just a small matter. Venerable Xing Hui's job is to start from the root and solve the crisis for the Earth civilization. Everyone responded. Xing Hui did not stay here for long. His figure suddenly soared into the air and then accelerated in the void. With a deafening boom, he broke through the sound barrier and whizzed toward the horizon at a speed many times faster than the speed of sound. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from everyone's sight. Flying at supersonic speed with one's flesh and blood. What a great power this is! Even though Jiang Kunlun had witnessed Xing Hui using this method more than once, the Huaxia region's commander-in-chief, who was a warrior, could not help but sigh. The people from the military headquarters of the other regions also nodded in agreement. All right, Venerable Xing Hui has already pointed out the path for us. Next, it's up to us to see if we can realize what Venerable Tsing Hui has given us. Everyone, work hard. The crisis that our Earth civilization is currently facing can only be overcome by relying on ourselves. Marshal Zhu Kefu, who had come from the Mediterranean fortress, said. Everyone nodded and quickly returned to the stronghold to discuss the details of the plan. Did you see that? Captain Makarov, Blood's son, did you guys see that? That's King Tsing Hui. That's King Tsing Hui. Oh my god, I actually got to see his body flying at supersonic speed with my own eyes. In the area where Tsing Hui was looking at earlier, Diana, who was 32 years old, was as excited as a young girl at this moment. In fact, she was not the only one. Everyone in their team, including the soldiers beside them, was shouting in joy. Their expressions were full of excitement and joy. Rumors of King Tsing Hui had long spread throughout the entire Earth Federation through promotional videos. The Earth Federation was very familiar with this legendary expert who was so powerful that he could treat apocalyptic-level ferocious beasts as nothing. However, knowing about him was one thing, and witnessing his appearance with their own eyes was another. It was just like a singer who was popular throughout the Federation. Knowing his name and seeing him with their own eyes, or even hearing him perform to his heart's content, were two completely different concepts. Although Diana and the others did not chase after celebrities, they believed in the strong. Now that they saw King Tsing Hui, who was as powerful as a god in their hearts, actually appear in front of them, they were naturally pleasantly surprised. I was wondering why there were fewer and fewer ferocious beasts in our fortress defense line. Today, there are only 2 or 3 ferocious beasts that have emerged from the defense line of the space passage. They are not even enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of the local garrison, let alone for us to deal with them personally. Now, it seems that it must be because King Tsing Hui has made his move. He has killed all the ferocious beasts in the space passage. That's why we are so relaxed now. Didn't I tell you earlier that King Tsing Hui is here? Those ferocious beasts will definitely be killed by King Tsing Hui, but you guys didn't believe me. What do you mean by King Tsing Hui? Didn't you see the latest news? The higher-ups of the Earth Federation have already conducted a new round of classification based on the strength displayed by Venerable Qing Su and the new ferocious beasts. After the Apocalypse level ferocious beasts are the leader level, then the king level, then the emperor level. Only after the emperor level is the venerable level where Venerable Qing Su is, so we should call him Venerable Qing Su. Makarov, the captain of the team, slapped the back of the head of Ivan, who was jumping the happiest in the team. Yes, 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 Venerable Tsing Hui, it's Venerable Tsing Hui. Ivan nodded vigorously, and at the same time, glanced in the direction where Tsing Hui was standing. Those people just now are all the top figures of the Earth Federation. Almost half of the people in the Earth Federation's Supreme Council are here to accompany Venerable Tsing Hui and thank him for his contribution. TSK, TSK. Currently, Venerable Tsing Hui claims to be number 2 in the world. Who dares to claim to be number 1? If I could have 1/10 of Venerable Tsing Hui's power and status, I'd be willing to die right now. Makarov, Diana, and the others nodded in agreement. Forget 1/10. I'll be satisfied as long as I can enter the Tsar District's Supreme Council. When that time comes, what can I not get? Money, power, beautiful women, anything I want. It's easy to get a new model every day. Vulgar. Diana glanced disdainfully at Makarov, and then turned to her teammates. Blood's son, why do you look a little unhappy to be able to see the true face of such a great being like Venerable Tsing Hui? Unhappy? Not at all. Blood's son. Jiang Ningji, the young master of the Dongyang sword sect, forced a smile and replied. At the same time, he hid his ferocious and terrifying appearance even more deeply. Is that so? Diana didn't think too much about it. At this moment, she saw the news about Venerable Tsing Hui's search for Jiang Ningji's whereabouts on the fortress screen. She immediately became envious. I really don't know who this woman is, to be able to make Venerable Tsing Hui search for her so diligently. If I were her, I'd probably die of happiness. Tisk, TSK. Big Sister Diana, you don't have to think about it. As the saying goes, heroes are matched with beautiful women. With Venerable Tsing Hui's status and character, the woman he's looking for must be devastatingly beautiful. How could Venerable Tsing Hui like someone like you who's getting old? Ivan, who was standing aside, burst into laughter. Kid, are you courting death? I'm our team's belle after all. Who knows, maybe Venerable Tsing Hui likes me. There's still hope. Diana pretended to hit him, scaring Ivan into laughing and running away. Alright, alright. Team Belle, Team Belle. You're our team's belle. Someone like Venerable Ching Su must have a lot of beauties around him. No matter how impressive his cultivation is, he's still a man after all, and a hot-blooded man at that. How can he compare to thousands of beauties who admire him throwing themselves at him? Diana, you don't have to think about it. Why don't you think about us, huh? Makarov laughed. However, while they were joking around, they didn't notice that Jiang Ningji, who was already feeling inferior due to her disfigurement, lowered her head even more when she heard their words. She wished she could hide in the shadows of her beautiful hair and never see the light of day. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.